The desert sun beats down mercilessly as Russell Adams stumbles upon a sight that will change his life forever. The twisted wreckage of an alien spacecraft half buried in the Sonoran sand. His heart races, torn between excitement and fear. This discovery could revolutionize human understanding of the universe, or spell doom for all of humanity. Russell, a 32-year-old geologist working for a private mining company, approaches the crash site cautiously. His boots crunch on the sun-baked earth as he circles the metallic debris. A glint of movement catches his eye from within the shattered hull. Someone or something is still alive inside. Pushing aside his apprehension, Russell squeezes through a jagged tear in the spacecraft's side. The interior is a maze of twisted metal and flickering alien technology. Then he sees her, a critically injured female creature unlike anything he's ever encountered. The alien's iridescent blue skin shimmers in the dim light, filtering through the wreckage. Large, almond-shaped eyes gaze at him with a mix of fear and desperation. Delicate, feather-like appendages adorn her head, quivering slightly with each labored breath. Russell's training kicks in. He kneels beside the wounded alien, pulling out his field first aid kit. As he works to stem her bleeding, he attempts to communicate using simple words and gestures. To his astonishment, she responds in broken English. "Danger," she wheezes. "Earth. In danger." The alien introduces herself as Astra, a member of the Vorkarian species. Between pained gasps, she reveals a chilling truth. Her people are planning an invasion of Earth. Astra had crash-landed while attempting to defect and warn humanity of the impending attack. Russell's mind reels. He's suddenly caught between his growing attraction to this beautiful, otherworldly being and his duty to protect his home planet. The weight of this knowledge settles heavily on his shoulders as he makes a split-second decision. "I'm taking you to my research camp," he tells Astra, carefully lifting her from the wreckage. "We'll treat your injuries and figure out how to stop this invasion." As they emerge from the crashed spacecraft, a distant cloud of dust on the horizon catches Russell's attention. His pulse quickens. Government agents? Hostile aliens? He can't risk finding out. Working swiftly, Russell conceals as much evidence of the crash as possible. He erases his footprints and scatters sand over the smaller pieces of debris. Time is running out. With Astra cradled in his arms, Russell hurries toward his off-road vehicle parked behind a nearby rock formation. The mysterious dust cloud grows larger, closing the distance rapidly. Sweat trickles down his back, a mix of desert heat and rising panic. Russell gently places Astra in the passenger seat, her alien features now partially hidden by a spare tarp. He jumps behind the wheel, engine roaring to life. As they speed away from the crash site, Russell can't help but steal glances at his extraordinary passenger. One thing is certain. His life, and potentially the fate of all humanity, has changed forever. The race to save Earth from an alien invasion has begun, with an unlikely alliance forged in the unforgiving Sonoran desert. The off-road vehicle's engine roared to life, drowning out the sound of Russell's pounding heart. He cast one last glance at the alien crash site before flooring the accelerator, kicking up a plume of dust as they sped away. Astra lay slumped in the passenger seat, her breathing labored and her iridescent blue skin taking on a worrying pallor. Russell's eyes darted between the rear-view mirror and the alien beside him. The distant dust cloud had purposed into 3 black SUVs, closing the gap with alarming speed. He gritted his teeth and veered off the main path, opting for a less visible route that wound through rocky outcroppings and sparse vegetation. "Hold on," he muttered, more to himself than to Astra. The vehicle bounced and jolted as Russell navigated the treacherous terrain, each impact eliciting a pained gasp from his alien passenger. As they put distance between themselves and their pursuers, Russell's mind raced. The research camp was too exposed, too obvious a destination. He needed somewhere safe, somewhere hidden to tend to Astra's worsening condition. A memory flashed in his mind, a hidden cave system he'd stumbled upon during a previous survey. It was a risk, but one he had to take. "Change of plans," he told Astra, glancing at her with concern. "We're going somewhere safe." Russell steered the vehicle towards a concealed entrance of the cave system, carefully maneuvering between jutting rocks and scrub brush. As he killed the engine and the dust settled around them, he could hear Astra's ragged breathing in the sudden silence. "Let's get you inside," he said softly, gently lifting her from the seat. Her skin felt cool to the touch, and he could feel a slight tremor running through her body. The cave's interior was a welcome respite from the desert heat. Russell's eyes adjusted to the dim light as he carried Astra deeper into the cavern. He laid her down on a makeshift bed of sleeping bags, his geologist kit providing an impromptu pillow. As Russell tended to Astra's wounds with his limited medical supplies, he noticed something extraordinary. Faint, bioluminescent markings adorned her skin, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. The soft, ethereal glow cast dancing shadows on the cave walls. "Fascinating," he whispered, tracing a finger along one of the glowing patterns. Astra's eyes fluttered open at his touch, locking onto his with an intensity that made his breath catch. The moment was shattered by the shrill ring of Russell's satellite phone. He fumbled for it, seeing Dr. Elena Martinez's name on the caller ID. His thumb hovered over the answer button, but after a moment's hesitation, he silenced the call. "Sorry, Elena," he murmured, pocketing the phone. "Some things are more important than work." As night fell, the temperature in the cave dropped dramatically. Russell noticed Astra shivering and moved closer, wrapping an arm around her to share his body heat. To his amazement, her bioluminescent markings flared brighter at the contact, bathing them both in a soft blue glow. Astra stirred, her large almond-shaped eyes finding Russell's in the dim light. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're welcome," Russell replied, surprised by the surge of emotion he felt at those simple words. "Can you tell me more about why you're here? About the invasion?" Astra nodded weakly. "Aye, Scout. For invasion. But Earth. Humans." She struggled to find the words. "You create. Adapt. I see beauty here. Could not. Destroy." Russell listened intently as Astra explained, in halting English, how she had been part of the Vorkarian advance team. Her mission to assess Earth's defenses had instead led her to appreciate humanity's resilience and creativity. Unable to participate in the planned invasion, she had attempted to warn Earth, only to be shot down by her own people. As Astra spoke, Russell became acutely aware of the monumental nature of the situation. He was harboring an alien defector, hiding from unknown pursuers, and now possessed critical information about an impending invasion. The weight of his choices pressed down on him, each decision potentially altering the course of human history. A distant rumble interrupted his thoughts. Russell tensed, recognizing the sound of approaching vehicles. He quickly extinguished their light source and helped Astra to her feet. "We need to move deeper into the cave," he whispered urgently. "Can you walk?" Astra nodded, leaning heavily on Russell as they made their way through the winding passages. The sound of footsteps and voices echoed to the cave system, growing louder with each passing moment. In the pitch darkness, Russell's hand found Astra's. Their fingers intertwined, an instinctive gesture that sent a jolt of electricity through him. Despite their differences, despite the danger surrounding them, he felt an undeniable connection to this alien being. They pressed themselves against the cool cave wall, holding their breath as flashlight beams swept past their hiding spot. Russell's heart hammered in his chest, every muscle tense and ready for action. As the search party moved on, Russell turned to Astra. Even in the darkness, he could make out the soft glow of her bioluminescent markings. Her alien features, once so strange to him, now held a beauty he couldn't deny. "We'll find a way out of this," he whispered, giving her hand a reassuring squeeze. Together, Astra's reply was lost in the sound of renewed activity above them. The pursuit was a long way to go, and as they huddled together in the depths of the cave, Russell knew that their journey and their growing connection was only just beginning. The first rays of sunlight crept into the cave, casting long shadows across the rocky floor. Russell stirred, his muscles stiff from the night spent on the hard ground. Beside him, Astra's bioluminescent markings pulsed softly in the dim light, a gentle reminder of the extraordinary situation he found himself in. "We need to move," Russell whispered, gently rousing Astra from her sleep. Her large, almond-shaped eyes blinked open, focusing on him with startling clarity. They made their way cautiously out of the cave system, Russell's eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of pursuit. The desert stretched out before them, seemingly empty, but he knew better than to let his guard down. "My vehicle's just behind those rocks," Russell said, pointing to a nearby outcropping. "We'll use it to get out of here." As they approached the off-road vehicle, Russell's satellite phone buzzed insistently in his pocket. He pulled it out, his stomach dropping as he saw the long list of missed calls from Dr. Elena Martinez. "I can't ignore this anymore," he muttered, more to himself than to Astra. He took a deep breath and dialed the number. "Russell, where the hell have you been?" Dr. Martinez's voice crackled through the speaker, a mix of relief and frustration evident in her tone. "I'm sorry, Elena," Russell replied, thinking quickly. "I got turned around while following an unusual geological formation. Lost track of time and my bearings. I'm okay, though, and I'm heading back to camp now." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "All right," Dr. Martinez said finally, her voice tinged with skepticism. "But I expect a full report when you get back. And Russell, don't do this again." "Understood," Russell said, ending the call. He turned to Astra, who had been watching him intently. "We need to go to my research camp. It's not ideal, but it's our best option for now." As they drove across the desert, Russell couldn't help but notice the change in Astra. Her skin, which had been pale and sickly the night before, now shimmered with a healthy blue iridescence. The feather-like appendages on her head moved gently in the breeze from the open window. "You're looking better," Russell observed, stealing glances at her as he navigated the rough terrain. Astra nodded. "My body heals quickly," she explained, her English still halting but improving. "Not like humans." As they neared the outskirts of the research camp, Russell slowed the vehicle to a stop. "I can't just drive in with you," he said, gesturing to Astra's distinctly non-human features. "Wait here while I check things out. I'll come back for you as soon as I can." Astra nodded, her large eyes filled with trust. Russell felt a twinge of something unfamiliar in his chest as he looked at her, a feeling he pushed aside as he exited the vehicle. The research camp was a hive of activity as Russell approached. He spotted Dr. Martinez immediately, her familiar figure striding towards him with purpose. "Russell," she called out, her tone sharp, "where have you been? And what's this about a geological formation?" As Russell launched into his prepared explanation, he noticed something off about the camp. Several black SUVs were parked near the main tent, and men in dark suits were conversing with members of the research team. "Who are they?" Russell asked, interrupting his own story and nodding towards the strangers. Dr. Martinez glanced over her shoulder. "Government types," she said, lowering her voice. "They showed up last night, asking questions about unusual activity in the area." "Russell, what's really going on?" "Nothing," Russell said quickly, perhaps too quickly. "Look, I need to grab some supplies. I want to head back out and document that formation properly." Before Dr. Martinez could protest, Russell slipped away, his heart pounding. He made his way to the supply tent, grabbing essentials: food, water, medical supplies, and camping gear. He also pocketed maps of the surrounding area and a handheld GPS device. As he was about to leave, he collided with Dr. Martinez. "Russell, what are you doing?" she demanded, eyeing the supplies in his arms. "I'm planning an extended solo expedition," Russell lied, the words tasting bitter in his mouth. "To follow up on my discovery. It could be big, Elena." Dr. Martinez studied him for a long moment, her eyes narrowing. Finally, she sighed. "Fine, but be careful out there, Russell. And stay in contact this time." Russell nodded, relief washing over him as he hurried back to where he'd left Astra. He found her exactly where he'd left her, her alien features a stark reminder of the incredible situation he found himself in. "We need to leave," he said urgently as he loaded the supplies into the vehicle. "There are government agents at the camp. I think they're looking for your ship." Astra's eyes widened. "We must go back," she said, her voice filled with sudden urgency. "To my ship. There is technology. Important. To stop invasion." Russell hesitated, torn between the immediate danger and the potential to save humanity. The weight of the decision pressed down on him, but one look at Astra's determined face made up his mind. "All right," he said, starting the engine. "But we'll need to be careful. Very careful." As they drove towards the crash site, taking a roundabout route to avoid detection, Astra began to speak. She told Russell of her world, of Vorkarian culture and technology. Her words painted a picture of a civilization both similar and utterly alien to his own. With each revelation, Russell felt the connection between them deepen, transcending the vast differences in their origins. As they approached the crash site, Russell's breath caught in his throat. Several government vehicles were parked around the area, with personnel combing the wreckage and surrounding desert. "There," Russell whispered, pointing to a narrow ravine off to the side. "That might give us away and without being seen." They parked the vehicle out of sight and crept towards the hidden approach. As they prepared to make their move, Astra placed her hand on Russell's arm. The touch sent a wave of warmth through his body, and he turned to meet her gaze. In that moment, as their eyes locked, words seemed unnecessary. A silent understanding passed between them, a shared commitment to the dangerous task ahead. Crouched behind a rocky outcrop, Russell and Astra surveyed the scene before them. The crash site was a hive of activity, with government agents meticulously examining every piece of debris. The twisted hull of Astra's ship lay exposed, its alien design a stark contrast to the barren desert landscape. Russell's mind raced, trying to formulate a plan. They needed to retrieve the vital Vorkarian technology without being captured, all while the clock ticked down on the impending alien invasion. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, and the growing attraction between human and alien threatened to complicate matters further. As they watched, waiting for their opportunity, Russell couldn't help but wonder how they would pull this off. The next few moments would be crucial, determining not just their fate, but potentially that of the entire human race. Race! With a deep breath, Russell turned to Astra and whispered, "I have an idea." He quickly outlined his plan, pointing out the small ravine that led to the back of the crashed ship. Astra nodded, her large eyes glinting with persistence. As night fell, they made their move. Russell and Astra slithered into the dusty ravine, inching their way towards the ship. The cool desert air nipped at their skin as they pressed close to the ground, their bodies almost touching to maintain the lowest possible profile. Russell's heart raced, acutely aware of Astra's alien form beside him. Her skin shimmered faintly in the darkness, a subtle reminder of the vast differences between them. Yet, as they crawled through the sand, he felt an undeniable connection growing stronger. They reached the ship's hull, its twisted metal looming above them. Astra's markings began to pulse with a soft blue light, reacting to her heightened emotional state. Russell quickly draped his jacket over her, their faces mere inches apart as he did so. For a moment, they froze, eyes locked, before Astra broke the silence. "This way," she whispered, guiding Russell to a hidden compartment in the ship's underside. Inside, they found a small cylindrical device covered in intricate Vorkarian symbols. Astra reached for it, her fingers trembling slightly. As she lifted the device, a low hum suddenly emanated from the ship. "No!" Astra gasped, her eyes widening in alarm. Shouts erupted from the government agents, flashlight beams cutting through the darkness. Russell grabbed Astra's hand, and they burst from their hiding spot, sprinting across the open desert. Sand kicked up beneath their feet as they ran, weaving between rock formations. Russell's lungs burned, but he pushed on, urged forward by the sound of pursuit behind them. Suddenly, Astra stumbled, her foot catching on a hidden stone. Without hesitation, Russell scooped her into his arms, her slight form surprisingly light. She wrapped her arms around his neck, the feeling of her alien body against his sending a jolt of electricity through him. They reached their hidden vehicle, just as the agents' voices grew dangerously close. Russell practically threw Astra into the passenger seat before leaping behind the wheel. The engine roared to life, and they sped away, leaving a cloud of dust in their wake. As they put distance between themselves and their pursuers, Astra clutched the Vorkarian device to her chest, her other hand resting on Russell's arm. The touch was both alien and comforting, a physical manifestation of the bond forming between them. "We can't go back to the research camp," Russell said, breaking the tense silence. "It's not safe there anymore." Astra nodded, her feather-like appendages quivering slightly. "We need secure location," she said, her English improving with each passing hour. "To activate device. Warn your leaders." Russell's mind raced, considering their options. Suddenly, an idea struck him. "I know a place," he said, "an abandoned mining town in the mountains. I surveyed it a few years back. It's remote, and there might still be some old communication equipment we can use." As they drove through the night, the adrenaline of their escape began to fade, leaving them both acutely aware of the intimate moment they had shared. Russell found himself stealing glances at Astra, marveling at how her alien features now seemed beautiful rather than strange. The first rays of dawn were breaking over the horizon as they reached the abandoned town. Dilapidated buildings loomed before them, their windows dark and empty. Russell led Astra to the old foreman's office, its sturdy construction offering the best shelter. Inside, they set up the Vorkarian device on a dusty desk. As they worked, their hands brushed against each other, sending a shiver down Russell's spine. He looked up, meeting Astra's gaze. For a long moment, they stood frozen, the air between them charged with unspoken emotion. Astra broke the spell, turning her attention to the device. Her brow furrowed as she examined it closely. "There is problem," she said softly. "Crash damaged components. Need human technology to repair." Russell ran a hand through his hair, frustration mixing with exhaustion. "What kind of technology?" "Specialized," Astra replied. "Not common. Will be difficult to find." As the implications of this new challenge sank in, Russell moved to the window. The vast desert stretched out before them, beautiful and unforgiving. He felt Astra's presence as she joined him, their shoulders almost touching. "What now?" Russell asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Astra's hand found his, her touch sending a wave of warmth through him. "We find way," she said simply. "Together." Russell nodded, squeezing her hand gently. They stood there in silence, watching the sun climb higher in the sky. The world beyond the abandoned town was full of dangers, government agents, potential Vorkarian pursuers, and the looming threat of invasion. Yet in that moment, as human and alien stood side by side, Russell felt a glimmer of hope. Their next move would be crucial. They needed to find the specialized technology to repair the device, all while staying hidden from those who sought them. It would be a delicate balance of caution and urgency, with the fate of the world hanging in the balance. As they began to plan their next steps, Russell couldn't help but marvel at the strange turns his life had taken. Just days ago, he had been a simple geologist on a routine survey. Now, he was a fugitive, carrying the hopes of humanity on his shoulders, and growing ever closer to an alien being who was quickly becoming the most important person in his life. The road ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and impossible choices. But as Russell looked at Astra, her alien features now as familiar to him as his own reflection, he knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Russell and Astra set to work on the Vorkarian device. They cleared a space on the dusty floor of the abandoned foreman's office, carefully laying out the alien technology alongside the tools and supplies they had managed to salvage from the crash site. Astra's delicate fingers moved with precision over the device, her bioluminescent markings pulsing softly as she concentrated. Russell watched in fascination, trying to make sense of the complex alien mechanisms. "This part," Astra said, pointing to a damaged section of the device, "needs human technology to function. Specialized component." Russell leaned in closer, his shoulder brushing against Astra's. He felt a subtle ripple of energy pass between them at the contact. "What kind of component?" he asked, his voice low. Astra's markings flared briefly before she answered. "Quantum processor. Very advanced. Not common technology." Russell's mind raced, considering their options. A quantum processor? That's cutting-edge stuff. We'd need access to a top-tier research facility. They spent the next several hours poring over maps and the information Russell had on his tablet. As the day wore on, they identified their best option, a government-run laboratory in Phoenix, Arizona, roughly 200 miles away. As they prepared for their journey, Russell couldn't help but notice the increasing frequency and intensity of Astra's bioluminescent pulses, especially when she was near him. The sight both thrilled and worried him, knowing that their growing attraction could complicate their already perilous mission. Before leaving the abandoned town, Russell made a risky decision. He approached the old communication equipment they had discovered earlier, his hands hesitating over the controls. "What are you doing?" Astra asked, her head tilted in curiosity. "Reaching out to a potential ally," Russell replied, his fingers flying over the keyboard as he composed a carefully worded message to Dr. Elena Martinez. He included select information about the alien crash, hoping to gain support within the scientific community without revealing too much. As they set out for Phoenix, the desert landscape blurred past their windows. The tension in the vehicle was palpable, a mix of anticipation for the challenges ahead and the unspoken attraction between them. Their journey was interrupted by flashing lights on the horizon. As they drew closer, Russell's grip tightened on the steering wheel. A roadblock loomed ahead, manned by state troopers. "Astra," Russell said urgently, "can you make yourself look more human?" Astra closed her eyes in concentration. Her features shifted subtly, her alien characteristics becoming less pronounced. It wasn't perfect, but it might be enough to pass a cursory inspection. As they approached the roadblock, Russell reached out and took Astra's hand. "Follow my lead," he whispered. A trooper approached their vehicle, flashlight in hand. "Where are you folks headed?" he asked, peering into the car. Russell put on his best smile. "Just taking a little romantic getaway," he said, giving Astra's hand a squeeze. "You know how it is, officer. Sometimes you just need to escape the city and spend some quality time together." The trooper's gaze lingered on Astra for a moment, but he eventually nodded. "All right, you two have a nice trip. Drive safely." As they pulled away from the roadblock, Russell let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Beside him, Astra's markings pulsed rapidly, her hand still clasped in his. They reached Phoenix as the sun was setting, the city's lights blinking to life in the gathering dusk. Russell used his geological survey credentials to gain access to the laboratory's perimeter, allowing them to scout potential entry points. Under the cover of darkness, they put their plan into action. Russell triggered a minor malfunction in some geological equipment, drawing the attention of the night shift security. Meanwhile, Astra used her Vorkarian agility to slip past the distracted guards and disabled security systems. Inside the facility, they moved swiftly through the sterile corridors, following the schematics they had memorized. They located the room housing the quantum processors, but as Astra reached for the component they needed, a soft beep echoed through the space. "Silent alarm," Russell hissed, grabbing Astra's arm. "We need to move. Now." They could hear the sound of approaching footsteps as they darted through the hallways, searching desperately for an escape route. With options running out, Russell yanked open the door to a storage closet, pulling Astra inside with him. The small space forced them close together, their bodies pressed against each other in the darkness. Russell could feel the rapid rise and fall of Astra's chest, her markings pulsing brightly enough to cast a faint glow in the cramped closet. Their eyes met, and in that moment, the tension that had been building between them reached its breaking point. Russell's hand cupped Astra's face, his thumb tracing the delicate patterns on her skin. She leaned into his touch, her alien features now as beautiful to him as any human's. Their lips met in a passionate kiss, the differences between their species forgotten in the heat of the moment. Astra's markings flared brilliantly, bathing them both in a soft, otherworldly light. The sound of a door slamming nearby broke through their reverie. Astra's eyes widened, then narrowed in concentration. Suddenly, a wave of energy pulsed from her body. The lights in the hallway flickered and died, and the electronic lock on their hiding place clicked open. "Electromagnetic pulse," Astra explained breathlessly. "Temporary. We must go." They burst from the closet, Russell clutching the quantum processor as they ran. Alarms blared around them, but the security systems were in disarray from Astra's pulse. They managed to slip out of the facility and into the night, their stolen prize secure. As they sped away from Phoenix, the adrenaline of their escape slowly faded, leaving them both acutely aware of what had transpired between them. The quantum processor sat between them, a tangible reminder of the monumental task that still lay ahead. Russell's mind raced with the implications of their actions. They had successfully acquired the component they needed, but at what cost? Their brazen theft would undoubtedly draw more attention, both from human authorities and potentially from Vorkarian forces as well. As the city lights receded behind them, Russell glanced at Astra. Her markings still pulsed softly, a visual echo of the intense emotions they had shared. He knew that their growing intimacy added yet another layer of complexity to their already daunting mission. They needed to find a secure location to integrate the quantum processor into the Vorkarian device. But as the desert night enveloped them, Russell realized that they would also have to confront the newfound depth of their relationship and its potential impact on their efforts to save Earth. The road stretched out before them, dark and uncertain. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, a union of two worlds, bound by a common purpose and an unexpected, profound connection. Connection. The desert night enveloped them as they sped away from Phoenix, the stolen quantum processor a silent passenger between them. Russell's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, his eyes constantly darting to the rear-view mirror. Astra sat rigid beside him, her markings pulsing with a frenetic energy that matched the tension in the air. "We need to get off the main roads," Russell said, breaking the silence. "Head somewhere they won't expect us to go." Astra nodded, her alien features softened by the dashboard lights. "Agreed. Where?" Russell's mind raced through options before settling on a plan. "North, into the Coconino National Forest. The dense woods will give us cover." As they drove through the night, The cityscape gave way to rugged terrain. The headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating towering pines and rocky outcroppings. Russell couldn't help but notice the increasing intensity of Astra's bioluminescent markings. They pulsed in time with her rapid heartbeat, casting a soft, otherworldly glow throughout the vehicle's interior. "Your markings," Russell said, his voice low. "They're brighter than before." Astra's hand unconsciously moved to her face, tracing the glowing patterns. "Yes, it is. A physiological response. To stress. To other things." Their eyes met briefly, the memory of their passionate embrace in the storage closet hanging between them. Russell felt his own heart rate increase, a warmth spreading through his body that had nothing to do with the desert heat. As dawn broke, they found a secluded clearing deep in the forest. Russell quickly set up his geological survey equipment, scanning the area for any signs of pursuit, while Astra began the delicate process of integrating the quantum processor into the Vorkarian device. They worked side by side, the rising sun filtering through the canopy above. The task was intricate, requiring both Russell's human intuition and Astra's advanced knowledge of Vorkarian technology. Their hands brushed against each other frequently as they passed tools back and forth, each contact sending a jolt of electricity through them. "Hold this steady," Astra instructed, her fingers deftly manipulating a series of minuscule components. Russell complied, hyper-aware of her proximity. Her markings pulsed brightly, creating mesmerizing patterns that danced across her skin. Hours passed as they worked, the forest around them coming alive with the sounds of birds and rustling leaves. Russell was just beginning to think they might have successfully evaded detection when a faint, rhythmic thumping reached his ears. Astra's head snapped up, her eyes wide. "Helicopters," she whispered. In an instant, they were in motion. Russell swiftly packed up his survey equipment, while Astra carefully secured the partially repaired Vorkarian device. They abandoned their vehicle, knowing it would be too easily spotted from the air, and plunged into the dense underbrush. The forest floor was treacherous, riddled with fallen branches and hidden depressions. Russell's geological expertise came to the fore as he led them through the terrain, identifying the most stable paths and avoiding areas prone to rock slides or sinkholes. The sound of the helicopters grew louder, accompanied now by distant shouts. Russell's mind raced, searching for a solution. Suddenly, a memory from a past survey flashed through his thoughts. "This way," he said urgently, grasping Astra's hand and pulling her towards a rocky outcropping. "There's a system of lava tubes nearby. We can hide there." They scrambled over the uneven ground, the precious Vorkarian device clutched tightly in Astra's arms. Russell's heart pounded as he searched for the hidden entrance he remembered from years ago. Just as the sound of crashing foliage indicated their pursuers were closing in, he found it, a narrow opening partially obscured by vegetation. "Here!" He pushed aside the growth, revealing the dark maw of the cave. Astra slipped inside without hesitation, Russell following close behind. The lava tube was cool and damp, a stark contrast to the warm forest air. They moved deeper into the darkness, Russell using the light from his tablet to guide their way. The passage was narrow, forcing them to press close together as they navigated its twists and turns. Finally, they reached a small chamber where the tube widened slightly. Russell switched off the light, plunging them into near-total darkness. The only illumination came from Astra's bioluminescent markings, which cast a soft, ethereal glow throughout the space. They stood there, breathing heavily, listening intently for any signs of pursuit. The close quarters brought them into intimate contact, their bodies pressed together in the confined space. Russell was acutely aware of every point where they touched, the warmth of Astra's alien form against him sending waves of sensation through his body. "I think we've lost them," Russell whispered after several long minutes of silence. Astra nodded, her markings pulsing in time with her rapid heartbeat. "For now," she agreed, "but we cannot stay here long. There is much I must tell you about the invasion to come." As they settled into their temporary refuge, Astra began to reveal more about the Vorkarian plans. Russell listened intently, his mind racing with the implications of what she described. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, and he knew that the bond forming between them, human and alien, would be tested in ways he could scarcely imagine. Outside, night fell over the forest. In the darkness of the lava tube, Russell and Astra continued their work on the Vorkarian device, their growing attraction a constant undercurrent to their desperate mission. Neither of them could have predicted the challenges that awaited them, or the earth-shattering events that would soon unfold. Before them, the weight of their mission pressed heavily upon them both. A sudden rustling in the underbrush outside their hiding place made them freeze. Russell's hand instinctively tightened around Astra's, her markings dimming in response. They held their breath, ears straining for any further sound. Footsteps approached, accompanied by the crackle of a radio. "Dr. Martinez, this is Base. Do you copy? We've lost contact with the research outpost." Russell and Astra exchanged a startled glance. They hadn't expected anyone else to be in the area, let alone someone connected to a research facility. The footsteps grew closer, and a beam of light swept across the entrance to their hiding place. "I'm here," a woman's voice replied, closer than they expected. "The outpost experienced a power failure. I'm investigating the cause now." The light flickered again, illuminating the entrance to the lava tube. Russell tensed, ready to protect Astra if necessary. But before he could act, a figure appeared at the opening, silhouetted against the forest beyond. "Hello," the woman called out softly. "Is someone there?" Russell and Astra remained silent, unsure of how to proceed. The woman took a step forward, her features becoming visible in the glow of Astra's markings. She was middle-aged, with sharp eyes and an air of authority about her. "My name is Dr. Elena Martinez," she said, her gaze fixed on Astra's alien form. "And I think we need to talk." For a long moment no one moved. The only sound was the faint hum of the Vorkarian device and their own rapid breathing. Russell glanced at Astra, seeing the conflict in her eyes. They had a split-second decision to make, one that could alter the course of their mission entirely. With a subtle nod from Astra, Russell took a deep breath. "Dr. Martinez," he began, "what we're about to tell you might sound unbelievable, but the fate of Earth depends on you listening." Over the next hour, Russell and Astra explained everything. The impending Vorkarian invasion, their mission to warn Earth's leaders, and the stolen quantum processor. Dr. Martinez listened intently, her expression shifting from skepticism to concern as the gravity of the situation became clear. "This is extraordinary," Dr. Martinez said finally, her eyes moving between Russell and Astra. "Under normal circumstances, I'd say you were both delusional. But," she gestured to Astra's clearly alien features, "I can't deny the evidence before me." "Then you believe us?" Astra asked, her markings pulsing hopefully. Dr. Martinez nodded slowly. "I do. And I want to help. The research outpost I mentioned, it's equipped with advanced communication systems and scientific instruments. It would be a much safer place for you to complete your work." Russell felt a wave of relief wash over him. "That would be incredibly helpful, Dr. Martinez. Thank you." With Dr. Martinez's assistance, they quickly gathered their equipment and made their way through the forest to the research outpost. The facility was small but well-equipped, hidden away in a remote corner of the Coconino National Forest. As they settled into the new space, Russell and Astra resumed their work on the Vorkarian device, now aided by Dr. Martinez's extensive technical knowledge. The integration of the quantum processor progressed more rapidly with the additional resources at their disposal. Hours turned into days as they worked tirelessly. Russell found himself constantly aware of Astra's presence, their bodies often brushing against each other as they maneuvered in the cramped lab space. Each accidental touch sent a jolt of electricity through him, intensifying the growing attraction between them. Dr. Martinez observed their interactions with a mixture of scientific curiosity and concern, her sharp eyes missing nothing. "The physiological responses between you two are fascinating," she remarked one evening, causing both Russell and Astra to blush. As they neared completion of the device, troubling reports began to surface from around the globe. Strange atmospheric disturbances and unexplained technological malfunctions were becoming more frequent, events that aligned chillingly with Astra's description of the initial stages of the Vorkarian invasion. "We're running out of time," Astra said urgently, her markings pulsing with anxiety. They redoubled their efforts, working through the night to finalize the integration of the quantum processor. Just as they were about to activate the device, a sudden power surge rocked the outpost, plunging everything into darkness. In the pitch black, Russell felt Astra's hand grasp his arm. They stumbled together, finding themselves in a small storage room off the main lab. The close quarters forced them against each other, and Russell was acutely aware of every point of contact between their bodies. "Astra," he whispered, his heart racing. In the darkness, her markings glowed brightly, illuminating her alien features. Without thinking, Russell cupped her face in his hands, tracing the luminescent patterns with his thumbs. Astra leaned into his touch, her breath quickening. "Russell," she murmured, her voice filled with longing. Their lips met in a passionate kiss, all the tension and attraction of the past weeks pouring out in a moment of heated embrace. The differences between their species seemed to melt away as they explored each other with eager hands and lips. Just as things were beginning to intensify, the emergency generators kicked in, flooding the outpost with light. They broke apart, flushed and breathing heavily, the reality of their situation crashing back upon them. As they emerged from the storage room, visibly disheveled, they found Dr. Martinez staring intently at a computer screen, her face pale with worry. "We have a problem," she said, looking up at them. "I've detected multiple unidentified objects entering Earth's atmosphere. Based on Astra's descriptions, they match the profile of Vorkarian scout ships." The news hit them like a physical blow. The invasion had begun, and they were out of time. "The device," Astra said urgently. "We need to activate it now and send the warning." They rushed back to the lab, quickly powering up the Vorkarian technology. As Astra began composing the warning message, they encountered an unexpected obstacle. The message must be transmitted on a specific frequency to penetrate the Vorkarian communication interference, Astra explained, her markings pulsing with frustration. "We need access to a more powerful transmission system." Russell's mind raced, searching for a solution. Suddenly, a memory from his geological surveys sparked an idea. "The radio telescope array," he said. "There's one not far from here, in a national radio quiet zone. It might be powerful enough to transmit the message." Dr. Martinez nodded. "It's our best shot. But accessing that facility won't be easy, especially now that the government is likely mobilizing in response to these atmospheric entries." As they hurriedly gathered their equipment, preparing to make a desperate attempt to reach the radio telescope array, the weight of their mission pressed upon them. The fate of humanity now rested on their ability to navigate the challenges ahead. Evading both human authorities and Vorkarian scouts, accessing the heavily secured facility, and successfully transmitting their warning before it was too late. Russell glanced at Astra, their earlier moment of passion still fresh in his mind. The complexity of their growing relationship added yet another layer to their already daunting task. As they stepped out into the night, ready to face whatever lay ahead, Russell knew that the coming hours would test them in ways they could scarcely imagine. As they stepped out into the night, ready to face whatever lay ahead, Russell knew that the coming hours would test them in ways they could scarcely have anticipated. The trio moved swiftly through the darkness, their feet crunching softly on the forest floor. Russell led the way, his knowledge of the terrain guiding them along hidden paths and animal trails. Astra followed close behind, her bioluminescent markings providing just enough light to navigate without attracting unwanted attention. Dr. Martinez brought up the rear, her scientific equipment secured in a backpack. As they neared a main road, the distant rumble of engines forced them to take cover. Russell pulled Astra and Dr. Martinez behind a fallen log, their bodies pressed close together as a military convoy thundered past. The flickering red and blue lights reflected off Astra's alien features, highlighting the worry etched across her face. "They're mobilizing," Dr. Martinez whispered, her breath warm against Russell's ear. "We need to move faster." With renewed urgency, they pressed on, abandoning the relative safety of the forest for the speed of the back roads. Russell's old pickup truck, hidden under a camouflage tarp, waited for them at the edge of an abandoned quarry. They piled in, the vehicle groaning under the weight of their equipment. As they approached the outskirts of the radio quiet zone, a military checkpoint loomed ahead, its floodlights cutting through the pre-dawn gloom. Russell's fingers tightening Ned on the steering wheel as he assessed their options. "We can't risk it," he decided, veering off onto a logging road. "We'll have to go the rest of the way on foot." They abandoned the truck in a thicket, gathering only the essentials. The dense forest presented a new challenge, with steep ravines and unstable ground slowing their progress. Russell's geological expertise came to the fore as he guided them through the treacherous terrain. "Watch your step here," he warned, pointing out a barely visible fissure in the rock. "The ground's not as stable as it looks." As they navigated a particularly steep incline, Astra's alien physiology gave her a distinct advantage. She scaled the near-vertical face with ease, her fingers finding purchase where human hands would slip. At the top, she turned and reached down to help the others. Russell grasped her hand, marveling at her strength as she effortlessly pulled him up. The touch of her skin against his sent a jolt of electricity through his body, their eyes meeting for a brief, charged moment before he turned to assist Dr. Martinez. The first rays of sunlight were just beginning to filter through the trees when they crested a final ridge. Before them, the massive radio telescope array stretched across the landscape, its giant dishes pointed skyward like metallic flowers seeking the sun. "There it is," Dr. Martinez breathed, her voice a mixture of awe and apprehension. Russell scanned the perimeter, noting the armed guards patrolling at regular intervals. "Security's tight," he observed. "We need a plan." They retreated to an abandoned maintenance shed, its rusted walls providing temporary shelter as they plotted their next move. As Astra laid out the stolen Vorkarian device, her markings suddenly began to pulse erratically, casting eerie shadows across the shed's interior. "What's happening?" Russell asked, alarmed. Astra's eyes widened with concern. "It's a response to nearby Vorkarian technology. The scout ships, they're close." The revelation sent a chill through the group. Their window of opportunity was rapidly closing. Dr. Martinez straightened her lab coat, a determined glint in her eye. "I have an idea. My credentials might get us past the guards, at least long enough for you two to slip inside." The plan worked better than they could have hoped. As Dr. Martinez engaged the guards with talk of an impromptu inspection, Russell and Astra slipped past the security perimeter. They raced across the open ground between satellite dishes, their hearts pounding in their ears. Inside the main control building, they quickly located the central computer system. Russell's fingers flew across the keyboard, bypassing security protocols with practiced ease. Beside him, Astra worked to modify the telescope's transmission capabilities, her alien knowledge proving invaluable. The close quarters and high-stakes situation only intensified the tension between them. Every accidental brush of their bodies, every shared glance, seemed charged with unspoken desire. Russell found himself hyper-aware of Astra's presence, the scent of her alien skin intoxicating in the confined space. Just as they were about to initiate the transmission, alarms blared throughout the facility. Security monitors flickered to life, showing multiple Vorkarian scout ships descending from the sky. Their sleek, otherworldly design stood in stark contrast to the chunky human aircraft scrambling to intercept them. "We're out of time," Astra said urgently, her markings pulsing rapidly. Russell nodded, his mouth dry. "Let's do it." With trembling fingers, he initiated the sequence. The radio telescope array hummed to life, its massive dishes realigning with a groan of metal. Astra's warning message, encoded with Vorkarian technology, beamed into space on a frequency that would penetrate their communication interference. For a moment, everything was still. Then, the world erupted into chaos. The Vorkarian ships opened fire, their energy weapons slicing through the air with terrifying precision. Explosions rocked the facility, sending Russell and Astra stumbling for cover. As the building shook around them, a support beam came crashing down, separating them from the exit. "This way!" Russell shouted, spotting a narrow maintenance shaft. They squeezed into the tight space, their bodies pressed together as they inched forward. Russell could feel the heat of Astra's alien form against him, her rapid breathing echoing in the confined space. Despite the danger, he found himself acutely aware of every point of contact between them. They emerged into chaos. The facility lay in ruins around them, smoke and debris filling the air. In the distance, Vorkarian ground troops were beginning to land, their alien forms moving with inhuman grace. Russell's eyes locked onto an abandoned military vehicle nearby. It was their only chance of escape, but reaching it meant crossing an open area under heavy fire. Before he could formulate a plan, Astra stepped forward. "I'll draw their attention," she said, her voice filled with drive. "You get to the vehicle." "Astra," no dash Russell began, but she was already moving. Using her alien abilities, Astra created a dazzling display of light and motion, drawing the Vorkarian troops' fire. Russell watched in awe and terror as she darted between cover, narrowly avoiding the energy blast that scorched the earth around her. Seizing the opportunity, Russell sprinted for the vehicle. He reached it just as a stray shot grazed his arm, sending him stumbling into the driver's seat. His hands found the steering wheel, gripping it tightly as he turned to look for Astra. She was pinned down behind a fallen satellite dish, the Vorkarian troops closing in. Russell's heart raced as he weighed his options. Every instinct screamed at him to save Astra, but he knew that escaping with the information they had gathered might be humanity's only hope. The Vorkarian ships loomed overhead, a constant reminder of the invasion force poised to strike. Earth's fate hung in the balance as Russell prepared to make his choice, the consequences of his decision weighing heavily upon him. In that moment, Russell made his choice. He gunned the engine, the military vehicle lurching forward with a roar. Tires squealed against the debris-strewn ground as he swerved towards Astra's position, using the armored bulk of the vehicle as a shield against the relentless Vorkarian fire. Energy blasts ricocheted off the reinforced plating, leaving scorch marks but failing to penetrate. Russell's knuckles turned white as he gripped the steering wheel, his eyes locked on Astra's crouched form behind the fallen satellite dish. "Astra!" he shouted, throwing open the passenger door as he skidded to a stop beside her. "Get in." Without hesitation, Astra launched herself towards the moving vehicle. Her alien physiology allowed her to leap with inhuman grace, covering the distance in a single bound. She landed in the passenger seat, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with brilliant intensity. Russell floored the accelerator before Astra had fully settled, the tires spinning against the ground before finding purchase. They sped away from the radio telescope array, leaving behind a scene of utter devastation. As they raced down the access road, Russell caught sight of Dr. Martinez in the rearview mirror. She stood with her hands raised, surrounded by human military personnel. Their eyes met for a brief moment before distance and chaos separated them. "We couldn't dash," Russell began, but Astra cut him off. "We had no choice," she said, her voice tight with emotion. "We have to keep moving." The relative quiet of their escape was short-lived. A high-pitched whine filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. Russell glanced in the side mirror to see two Vorkarian scout ships in hot pursuit, their sleek forms cutting through the sky with terrifying speed. "Hold on!" Russell shouted, veering off the main road onto a rough trail that led into the surrounding wilderness. The vehicle bounced and shuddered as he pushed it to its limits. Years of navigating treacherous terrains during geological expeditions now put to the ultimate test. Beside him, Astra's hands flew over the control panel of the Vorkarian device they had salvaged. Her markings pulsed in complex patterns as she focused intently on the task. "What are you doing?" Russell asked, swerving to avoid a fallen tree. "Jamming their targeting systems," Astra replied, her eyes never leaving the alien technology. "It won't stop them, but it should buy us some time." The chase led them into a narrow canyon, its high walls looming on either side. Russell's geological expertise came to the fore as he assessed the terrain in split-second glances. He spotted a low, narrow passage ahead, barely wide enough for their vehicle, but too small for the pursuing ships. "Astra, brace yourself," he warned, angling the vehicle towards the opening. Metal screeched against rock as they squeezed through the passage, the sides of the vehicle scraping against the canyon walls. Behind them, the Vorkarian ships were forced to pull up, momentarily breaking off their pursuit. They emerged from the canyon into a vast desert expanse, the sudden transition from enclosed space to open terrain momentarily disorienting. Russell eased off the accelerator, allowing them a brief respite to catch their breath. The adrenaline of their escape, combined with the close quarters of the vehicle, heightened Russell's awareness of Astra's presence beside him. Her alien scent filled the cabin, a mix of ozone and something undefinably exotic. Their eyes met, a moment of unspoken connection passing between them that transcended the barriers of their different species. The moment was shattered by a distant rumble. On the horizon, massive Vorkarian ships descended from the sky, their enormous forms dwarfing anything Russell had seen before. Streams of smaller craft poured from their hulls, spreading out across the landscape like a swarm of deadly insects. "It's begun," Astra said softly, her markings dimming with the gravity of the situation. The full invasion. Russell's mind raced, processing the enormity of what they faced. Their warning message, even if successfully transmitted, had come too late to prevent this. They needed a new plan, a way to actively combat the Vorkarian threat. As if reading his thoughts, Astra spoke. "There might be a way," she said, her voice filled with cautious hope. "I know of a weakness in Vorkarian technology, a specific frequency that can disrupt their ship's propulsion systems." Russell's eyes widened at the implications. "If we could broadcast that frequency globally, we could ground their entire fleet," Astra finished. "We need a powerful broadcast station," Russell said, his mind already working on the problem. Then, a memory from a classified geological survey surfaced. "Wait, I know a place. There's a top-secret military communication hub hidden in an underground bunker. If we can reach it, we might have a chance." As Russell set a course for the hidden facility, a new willpower settled over them. The unlikely pair, a human geologist and an alien defector, now stood as Earth's last line of defense against an overwhelming invasion force. The vast desert stretched out before them, the military vehicle kicking up a trail of dust as they raced against time. In the distance, the sky burned with the fires of destruction, a constant reminder of the stakes they faced. Yet as Russell glanced at Astra, her alien features set an unyielding commitment. He felt a spark of hope. Together, They just might have a chance to turn the tide of this invasion and save humanity from the brink of annihilation. Annihilation. As they sped across the desert, the enormity of their task took a toll on Russell and Astra. The vast expanse of sand and rock stretched out before them, a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding in the sky above. Russell's knuckles were white on the steering wheel as he navigated the rough terrain, his mind racing with calculations and strategies. "The bunker," he said, breaking the tense silence. "It's hidden in a mountain range about 50 miles northeast of here. If we can reach it, we might have a chance to broadcast that disruptive frequency globally." Astra nodded, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with renewed intensity. "It's our best hope, but we'll need to hurry. The Vorkarians will be scanning for any human military installations." As they approached the foothills of the mountain range, a dark shadow fell over their vehicle. Russell looked up through the windshield, his heart sinking at the sight of a massive Vorkarian dropship descending from the sky. Its sleek, otherworldly design dwarfed their military vehicle, making it look like little more than a toy in comparison. "We can't outrun that," Russell said, his voice tight with urgency. "We need to abandon the vehicle and find cover." He spotted a deep ravine to their right and veered sharply towards it. The tires skidded on the loose gravel as he brought the vehicle to a stop at the edge of the crevasse. Without a word, he and Astra leapt from the vehicle and scrambled down the steep slope, loose rocks tumbling around them as they sought shelter from the alien craft sensors. As they pressed themselves against the ravine wall, a figure in military fatigues slid down beside them. Russell tensed, ready for a confrontation, but relaxed when he recognized the insignia on her uniform. "Sergeant Sarah Cooper." The woman introduced herself, her voice low and steady despite the chaos above. "I was on patrol when the invasion hit. Saw you two heading for cover and figured you might need some help." Russell nodded gratefully. "Russell Chun, geologist. And this is Astra. She's not from around here." Sergeant Cooper's eyes widened slightly as she took in Astra's alien features, but to her credit, she didn't flinch. "Well, enemy of my enemy and all that. What's the plan?" As Astra quickly explained their mission to reach the hidden bunker, the sound of Vorkarian troops deploying from the dropship filled the air. Metallic clicks and words mixed with the soft thud of alien feet hitting the ground, creating an eerie symphony of invasion. "We need to move," Astra whispered, her markings dimming to near invisibility. "I know their search patterns. Follow me and stay low." With Astra in the lead, the trio began to navigate the treacherous terrain. Russell's geological expertise proved invaluable as he identified stable pathways and potential hazards. Sergeant Cooper brought up the rear, her military training evident in the way she scanned their surroundings for threats. They moved in tense silence, every step calculated to minimize noise and visibility. Russell found himself hyper-aware of Astra's proximity as they crawled through narrow passages and squeezed between rock formations. The alien heat of her body and the faint ozone-like scent of her skin sent his pulse racing, despite the danger that surrounded them. As they crested a rise, the entrance to the bunker came into view. Disguised as an old mine shaft, it was nearly invisible against the rugged landscape. But as they approached, Sergeant Cooper held up a hand, signaling them to stop. "The security systems are active," she said, pointing to a barely visible camera nestled in the rocks. "Standard procedure during an invasion. My code should work, but—" She trailed off as she approached the hidden control panel. After a tense moment, she shook her head. "It's not accepting the override. The system's been locked down completely." Astra stepped forward, her markings pulsing with dedication. "I might be able to interface with it using Vorkarian technology. It's a risk, but it's our only option." She reached for a small device attached to her suit, the movement causing the fabric to shift. Russell couldn't help but stare as more of her alien physiology was revealed. patterns of bioluminescence tracing elegant lines across her skin. He felt a rush of heat that had nothing to do with the desert sun. Working together, Astra and Sergeant Cooper managed to create a temporary override. The bunker door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a dark corridor beyond. As they entered, the emptiness of the facility became apparent. Desks sat abandoned. Screens flickered with emergency alerts, and the air hung heavy with tension. Sergeant Cooper quickly found her way to the command center, her fingers flying over the controls as she prepared the communication systems. Russell and Astra, meanwhile, searched the bunker for anything that might aid their mission. In a secluded storage area, surrounded by crates of emergency supplies, Russell and Astra found themselves alone for the first time since their daring escape. The air between them seemed to crackle with unspoken tension. Russell turned to Astra, his heart pounding. "Astra, His words were cut off as Astra surged forward, pressing her alien lips against his. The kiss was electric, a fusion of human and alien passion that sent shockwaves through Russell's body. Astra's markings blazed with brilliant light, illuminating the dim storage room. Their moment of connection was shattered by Sergeant Cooper's urgent voice over the intercom. "We've got incoming. Massive energy signature approaching fast. It's got to be a mothership." Russell and Astra broke apart, breathless and flushed. Their eyes met, a silent promise passing between them before they rushed back to the command center. The monitors showed a colossal Vorkarian vessel approaching their location, its size defying comprehension. Astra immediately moved to interface with the transmission system, her body becoming one with the human technology in a dazzling display of bioluminescence. "Ready to transmit," she said, her voice strained with effort. Sergeant Cooper nodded grimly. "Broadcasting now." The effect was immediate and awe-inspiring. On the monitors, they watched as Vorkarian ships across the globe began to falter. Smaller craft plummeted from the sky, while larger vessels struggled to maintain altitude. Russell felt a surge of hope. They were actually doing it. But that hope was short-lived. The mothership, while clearly affected by the disruptive frequency, continued its inexorable approach. Its massive form cast a shadow over the entire mountain range as it descended towards their location. "It's not enough," Astra said, her markings pulsing erratically with the strain of maintaining the broadcast. "The mothership systems are too powerful." As alarms blared throughout the bunker, signaling the imminent arrival of Vorkarian forces, Russell looked from Astra to Sergeant Cooper. Their faces reflected his own mix of purpose and fear. "We need a new plan," he said, his mind racing. "There has to be a way to amplify the signal, or find another weakness we can exploit." Sergeant Cooper was already moving towards the armory. "Whatever we do, we'll need to defend ourselves first. Come on." As they armed themselves with the bunker's remaining weapons, Russell couldn't shake the feeling that they were grossly outmatched. But as he looked at Astra, her alien features set in unwavering perseverance, and Sergeant Cooper, her military training evident in every precise movement, he felt a glimmer of hope. They were humanity's last line of defense, an unlikely trio united against an overwhelming alien threat. As the first tremors of the mothership's landing shook the bunker, Russell gripped his weapon tightly. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The bunker's reinforced doors groaned under the pressure of the Vorkarian assault. Russell, Astra, and Sergeant Cooper took up defensive positions, their weapons trained on the entrance. The fate of Earth hung in the balance as they prepared to make their stand against the full might of the alien invasion force. The bunker shook violently as the Vorkarian forces intensified their assault. Dust and debris rained down from the ceiling, coating Russell, Astra, and Sergeant Cooper in a fine layer of grit. As they held their positions, weapons trained on the groaning doors, Russell's mind raced. "This isn't going to work," he said, his voice tight with urgency. "We need a new plan." Astra's markings pulsed rapidly, her alien features contorted in concentration. There might be another way, she said, turning to face them. The mothership's central power core. It's vulnerable to a specific type of electromagnetic pulse. If we could generate one powerful enough, we might be able to disable the entire vessel. Sergeant Cooper's eyes lit up. The communication array, she said. We could modify it to generate that pulse. Russell nodded, his geological expertise kicking in. And I know just how to amplify it. There are rare earth elements in the surrounding rock formations. If we can extract and incorporate them, we could boost the pulse's effectiveness significantly. I can help with that, Cooper said, already moving towards a hidden panel in the wall. This bunker has reserves of experimental weaponry. Some of those components might be exactly what we need. As Cooper accessed the hidden cache, Russell and Astra began to work on modifying the communication array. Their hands moved in tandem, human and alien physiology working in perfect sync. Russell couldn't help but notice the graceful efficiency of Astra's movements, her alien dexterity both fascinating and alluring. Suddenly, a deafening crash echoed through the bunker. The outer defenses had been breached. Cooper cursed under her breath, hefting her weapon. I'll hold them off, she said grimly. You two keep working on that pulse device. As Cooper took up a defensive position, Russell and Astra redoubled their efforts. The sound of gunfire and alien weaponry filled the air, punctuated by the sergeant's shouts and the inhuman screeches of the Vorkarian troops. Russell's hands shook as he worked to integrate the rare earth elements into the device. Astra's cool fingers brushed against his, steadying him. Their eyes met for a brief moment, an unspoken connection passing between them. Without warning, a massive tremor rocked the bunker. The floor buckled beneath them, and a horrifying grinding noise filled the air. They're drilling through the mountain, Astra shouted, her markings flashing in alarm. Before they could react, a section of the ceiling collapsed. Russell found himself thrown to the ground, debris raining down around him. When the dust settled, he realized with a jolt of panic that he and Astra were trapped in a small chamber, cut off from Sergeant Cooper and the main control room. Sarah, Russell called out, his voice hoarse. Are you okay? A muffled voice came through the wall of rubble. I'm fine, but the Vorkarians are getting closer. You need to finish that device. Russell turned to Astra, acutely aware of how close they were in the confined space. Her alien features were illuminated by the soft glow of her bioluminescent markings, casting ethereal patterns across her face. We need to get out of here, he said, trying to focus on the task at hand despite the heat rising in his cheeks. Astra nodded, her eyes scanning the debris. Without a word, she moved to a large boulder blocking their path. Russell watched in amazement as she gripped the massive rock, her alien muscles rippling beneath her skin. With a grunt of effort, she lifted the boulder, clearing a path for them. As they scrambled through the opening, Russell couldn't help but stare at Astra. Her outer protective layer had been damaged in the cave-in, revealing more of her iridescent blue skin and the intricate patterns of light that danced across her body. They rushed back to the main control room, where Sergeant Cooper was holding off the advancing Vorkarian troops. The alien soldiers were just outside now, their inhuman shrieks sending chills down Russell's spine. We need more time, Russell shouted, his mind racing. Then an idea struck him. Sarah, the lower levels, we can flood them. Cooper nodded, understanding immediately. She input a series of commands, and the sound of rushing water filled the air. The alien advance halted momentarily, giving them precious minutes to complete their work. With trembling hands, Russell and Astra made the final adjustments to the pulse device. As the last component clicked into place, a sobering realization dawned on them. It's not enough, Astra said, her markings dimming. To achieve maximum effect, we need to detonate it much closer to the mothership, outside the bunker. Russell swallowed hard, knowing what had to be done. "I'll go," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Astra's hand shot out, gripping his arm. "Not alone," she said firmly. "I'm coming with you." Their eyes met, and in that moment, Russell saw a depth of emotion in Astra's alien gaze that took his breath away. There was no need for words. They understood each other perfectly. As they prepared to leave the relative safety of the bunker, Sergeant Cooper's voice crackled over the intercom. "Wait, I've found something. An experimental aircraft in a hidden hangar. It can get you to the mothership quickly." Russell's heart leapt. "Where?" "Other side of the bunker," Cooper replied grimly. "Past the Vorkarian forces." Russell and Astra exchanged a determined look. They knew the risks, but there was no other choice. With a nod to Sergeant Cooper, they set off into the maze-like corridors of the bunker, the fate of humanity resting on their shoulders. As they moved silently through the dimly lit passages, Russell couldn't shake the feeling that, whatever the outcome, his life had been irrevocably changed by meeting Astra. The warmth of her alien presence beside him gave him strength, even as the sounds of the Vorkarian invasion grew ever closer. Closer, sending chills down his spine. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders, and they couldn't afford to fail. "Ready?" Russell asked, his hand hovering over the experimental aircraft's ignition. Astra nodded, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with purpose. "Let's go." The hidden hangar door slid open, revealing the chaos outside. Russell piloted the craft with expert precision, launching them into the sky. The Vorkarian mothership loomed above, its massive form blotting out the sun. As they ascended, a swarm of alien fighter craft swooped towards them. Russell's hands tightened on the controls, his mind racing through evasive maneuvers. Beside him, Astra's fingers danced across the weapon's console, her intimate knowledge of Vorkarian technology proving invaluable. "Bank left," Astra shouted, and Russell complied instantly. A burst of energy from their craft's gun struck an incoming fighter, sending it spiraling away in a ball of flame. They weaved through the aerial battlefield, their complementary skills keeping them alive against overwhelming odds. Russell's piloting expertise allowed them to dodge incoming fire, while Astra's precise shots kept their attackers at bay. As they climbed higher, the full scale of the invasion became apparent. Major cities around the globe were under attack, Vorkarian forces establishing footholds on every continent. The sight of the devastation below strengthened their dedication. "We can't let them win," Russell said through gritted teeth, narrowly avoiding a barrage of alien weaponry. Astra's markings flashed in agreement. "We won't." As they approached the mothership, Astra's eyes widened. Her hands flew across the console, analyzing the data streaming in. "Russell, the shield. There's a fluctuation in its energy pattern," she exclaimed. "The disruptive frequency we broadcast earlier. It's weakened their defenses." Russell's mind raced, considering their options. "Can we get through?" Astra's markings pulsed rapidly as she calculated. "There's a small window of opportunity, but it's risky. We'd have to fly directly into the fluctuating section." Without hesitation, Russell adjusted their course. "Then that's what we'll do." They shot towards a mothership, aiming for the barely visible distortion in its energy shield. Alien fighters swarmed around them, their weapons' fire intensifying as they realized the humans' intent. "Hold on!" Russell shouted as they reached the fluctuating section. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed as if they would crash against the shield. Then, with a violent lurch, they broke through. The craft shuddered, alarms blaring as systems failed. "We've lost propulsion," Astra yelled over the cacophony. Russell fought with the controls, trying to guide their descent towards one of the massive hangar bays. Brace for impact. They crashed into the hangar, skidding across the alien metal floor in a shower of sparks. The impact threw them together, their bodies pressed close in the confined space of the cockpit. For a moment, They stayed like that, hearts racing, acutely aware of each other's presence. As the adrenaline of survival coursed through them, Russell found himself lost in Astra's otherworldly eyes. The attraction between them, heightened by their shared ordeal, was palpable. A distant explosion snapped them back to reality. They scrambled out of the wreckage, retrieving the electromagnetic pulse device, their last hope for disabling the mothership. Astra's markings glowed softly, illuminating the dimly lit hangar. "This way," she whispered, leading them towards a corridor. They moved cautiously through the labyrinthine passages of the alien vessel. Astra's bioluminescence proved both blessing and curse, allowing them to navigate but also making them more visible to potential patrols. Running his hand along a wall. "They're similar to structures I've..." Russell's geological expertise came into play as they progressed deeper into the ship. He analyzed the synthetic crystalline formations used in Vorkarian architecture, identifying potential weak points and safer routes. "These formations," he murmured, running his hand along a wall, "they're similar to structures I've studied on Earth, but far more advanced. If we follow this pattern, it should lead us to the central power core." Astra looked at him with newfound admiration. "Your ability to read these formations is impressive. Even some Vorkarians struggle with it." As they rounded a corner, they stumbled upon a group of human prisoners being led to holding cells. Among them, Russell recognized a familiar face. Dr. Elena Martinez, the scientist who had been captured during the attack on the radio telescope array. Russell and Astra exchanged a glance, silently weighing their options. They knew that stopping to help the prisoners could jeopardize their mission, but they couldn't bring themselves to abandon their fellow humans. "We have to help them," Russell said, his voice low but firm. Astra nodded, her markings pulsing in agreement. Quickly, then, they sprang into action. Russell used his knowledge of the ship's layout to create a distraction, luring some of the guards away. Astra's alien strength and agility proved crucial as she swiftly overpowered the remaining Vorkarian guards. As the last guard fell, Dr. Martinez rushed to them. "Thank you," she breathed, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and hope. "But what are you doing here?" Russell quickly explained their plan as they led the freed prisoners through the ship's corridors. Dr. Martinez's eyes lit up with understanding. "I might be able to help," she said. "During my captivity, I observed some of their technology. I think I can offer some insights that could refine your plan." With Dr. Martinez's guidance, they made their way towards the central power core. As they neared their destination, they encountered a massive security door requiring Vorkarian biometric authentication. Astra stepped forward, placing her hand on the scanner. Nothing happened. "My access has been revoked," she said, her markings dimming with disappointment. Russell studied the crystalline formations surrounding the door, an idea forming in his mind. "Astra, what if we use these crystals to amplify your biometric signature?" Dr. Martinez nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, that could work." The crystalline structure could act as a resonator, magnifying Astra's unique biological patterns. They set to work, carefully positioning Astra near the most responsive crystal formations. As they activated the makeshift amplifier, Astra's body went rigid, her markings flaring with blinding intensity. Russell rushed to her side, supporting her as she endured the painful process. Their eyes met, an unspoken connection passing between them as they pushed through the ordeal together. With a hiss, the security door slid open, revealing the central power core chamber beyond. The sight before them was awe-inspiring, a massive, pulsating energy source that powered the entire mothership. As they entered the chamber, a voice rang out, stopping them in their tracks. "So, the defector returns." They turned to see a high-ranking Vorkarian commander, his eyes fixed on Astra with a mixture of contempt and disappointment. "You could have been part of something greater," the commander said, his voice echoing through the chamber. Instead, you chose to betray your own people for these. Humans. Astra stood tall, her markings pulsing defiantly. You're wrong. What we're doing to Earth, to humanity, it's not right. The commander's eyes narrowed. You don't understand. This invasion is merely the first step in a much larger plan. We need Earth and its inhabitants as resources in our ongoing interstellar conflict. Russell felt a chill run down his spine at this revelation. He glanced at Astra, seeing the shock and persistence in her alien features. We won't let that happen, Russell said, his hand tightening around the electromagnetic pulse device. The Vorkarian commander moved to apprehend them, his massive form closing the distance with surprising speed. Russell and Astra sprang into action, working in tandem to outmaneuver their powerful adversary. As they fought, Russell sought an opening to plant the pulse device. Astra, recognizing his intent, used her alien agility to distract the commander, drawing his attention away from Russell. With a burst of speed, Russell darted towards the pulsating power core, the device clutched tightly in his hand. Just as he reached it, the commander broke free from Astra's assault, lunging towards him. Russell activated the pulse device, its lights blinking to life. He turned to face the oncoming threat, finding himself cornered between the commander and the thrumming energy of the power core. Astra rushed to his side, her markings blazing with fierce intensity. They stood together, backs against the wall, the fate of Earth hanging in the balance. The pulse device beeped steadily, primed but not yet activated. Russell and Astra exchanged a determined look, their bond stronger than ever in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. The stage was set for a final, desperate struggle at the heart of the alien mothership. The tension in the air was palpable as they faced the Vorkarian commander, their bodies taut with anticipation. Russell's eyes darted around the chamber, his mind racing. Suddenly, he spotted a cluster of crystalline formations near the power core. An idea sparked in his mind. Astra, he whispered. On my signal, be ready to engage. She nodded imperceptibly, her markings pulsing with understanding. Russell lunged towards the crystals, his hands moving with practiced precision. He manipulated the formations, causing a surge of energy to ripple through the ship's systems. The lights flickered, and the power core's steady hum faltered for a moment. The commander's attention wavered, his eyes flicking towards the disturbance. Astra seized the opportunity, launching herself at him with otherworldly speed. Their bodies collided in a blur of motion. Astra's smaller form darted around the commander, her alien physiology allowing her to match his strength. Her markings flared brightly, casting eerie shadows across the chamber as they grappled. Russell scrambled towards the electromagnetic pulse device, his fingers fumbling with the controls. His heart sank as he realized the activation sequence was beyond his understanding. "Astra!" he called out, dodging a piece of debris sent flying by the intense combat. "I need the activation sequence." Astra grunted in response, barely avoiding a powerful blow from the commander. She knew she had to break away, but the Vorkarian's relentless assault left no opening. Russell's mind raced, searching for a solution. He noticed the commander's eyes tracking Astra's bioluminescent markings, an idea forming. "Astra, your markings. Use them." Understanding flashed across Astra's face. She concentrated, and suddenly her markings blazed with blinding intensity. The commander recoiled, momentarily stunned by the brilliant display. Russell seized the moment, charging forward and driving his shoulder into the commander's midsection. The impact sent them both sprawling, but it gave Astra the opening she needed. She sprinted to the pulse device, her fingers flying over the controls with practiced ease. The commander, recovering quickly, let out a roar of fury and charged towards her. Without hesitation, Russell threw himself between them. The commander's fist connected with his ribs, sending a shock of pain through his body. he gasped, stumbling backward, but remained standing. "Russell!" Astra cried out, her voice filled with concern. "Finish it!" he wheezed, bracing himself for another attack. Astra turned back to the device, inputting the final sequence. The commander lunged forward, but it was too late. The device hummed to life, energy crackling around it. A wave of electromagnetic energy pulsed outward, washing over them. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The power core's steady rhythm faltered, becoming erratic. Alarms blared throughout the ship as systems began to fail. The commander staggered, his advanced technology rendered useless by the pulse. Russell and Astra shared a momentary look of triumph before the reality of their situation set in. "We need to move," Astra said urgently, helping Russell to his feet. They could feel the ship shuddering around them, the structure groaning under the strain of cascading failures. They rushed from the chamber, navigating the increasingly unstable corridors. They encountered Dr. Martinez and the freed prisoners, who had been working to secure an escape route. "This way," Dr. Martinez called out, gesturing towards a less damaged section of the ship. "We've found a path to the hangar bay." They raced through the disintegrating mothership, dodging falling debris and leaping over sparking, malfunctioning equipment. Through viewport windows, they caught glimpses of smaller Vorkarian vessels plummeting from the sky, their systems disabled by the pulse. Reaching the hangar bay, they found chaos. Most of the ships were dead, their pilots scrambling in confusion. Astra's eyes scanned the area, finally settling on a small scout ship near the back of the hangar. "There," she pointed. "That one has an independent power source. It should still work." They sprinted towards the ship, Astra taking the lead. As they approached, a group of Vorkarian soldiers noticed them, raising their weapons. Russell's heart pounded, certain they were about to be cut down. Suddenly, the soldiers' weapons sputtered and died, victims of the electromagnetic pulse. Taking advantage of their confusion, Astra engaged them in hand-to-hand combat, her movements a blur of deadly efficiency. Russell and Dr. Martinez ushered the other prisoners onto the scout ship, while Astra held off the Vorkarians. As the last prisoner boarded, Russell turned back, unwilling to leave without her. "Astra!" he called out. She disengaged from the fight, sprinting towards the ship. Russell reached out, grasping her hand and pulling her aboard as the hangar bay doors began to buckle. Astra leapt into the pilot's seat, her hands dancing over the unfamiliar controls with surprising confidence. The ship hummed to life, lifting off just as the hangar bay depressurized, debris swirling around them. They shot out of the mothership, narrowly avoiding colliding with other disabled craft. As they gained distance, they watched in awe as the massive Vorkarian vessel began to break apart, huge chunks of it burning up in Earth's atmosphere. The tension in the small craft was palpable as Astra piloted them towards the planet's surface. Russell moved closer to her, noticing the injuries she had sustained during the fight. Without a word, he began tending to her wounds, his touch gentle and careful. Astra's markings pulsed softly in response to his care, creating a mesmerizing display of light that captivated Russell. Their eyes met, a moment of understanding passing between them. They had achieved something monumental together. As Earth's atmosphere enveloped them, the reality of their situation began to sink in. The small scout ship touched down in a field outside a bustling metropolis, its skyline punctuated by the wreckage of fallen Vorkarian vessels. As the hatch opened, Russell and Astra were greeted by a sea of flashing cameras and a cacophony of voices. News of their daring escape from the mothership had spread rapidly. Military personnel quickly established a perimeter, ushering the freed prisoners to waiting medical teams. Russell stepped forward, shielding Astra from the onslaught of questions and accusatory glares. Her markings pulsed with anxiety, casting a soft glow in the fading daylight. "It's okay," Russell murmured, his hand finding hers. "We're in this together." In the days that followed, their lives became a whirlwind of debriefings and medical examinations. The world struggled to come to terms with the aftermath of the invasion, and Russell and Astra found themselves at the center of it all. A week after their return, they were summoned to an emergency global summit. As they prepared in a hotel room overlooking the city, Russell noticed Astra's markings flickering with increased intensity. "Are you all right?" he asked, adjusting his tie. Astra's alien features softened as she met his gaze. "I'm uncertain. My presence here is causing conflict among your people." Russell stepped closer, his hand hovering near her arm. "You saved us all, Astra. They need to understand that." As if responding to his proximity, her markings pulsed brighter, creating intricate patterns across her skin. Russell found himself mesmerized by the display, a warmth spreading through his chest. The summit itself was a tense affair. Russell and Astra sat before a panel of stern-faced world leaders, recounting their experiences aboard the mothership. When questioned about her loyalties, Astra's voice remained steady. "I chose to stand with humanity because it was right," she said, her markings glowing with conviction. "The Vorkarian plan was unjust, and I could not be part of it." Russell's testimony corroborated her story, emphasizing Astra's crucial role in their victory. As he spoke, he noticed Dr. Elena Martinez in the audience, furiously taking notes. The debate that followed was heated. Some nations pushed for aggressive action against remaining Vorkarian forces, while others advocated for diplomatic solutions. Astra's presence became a focal point of contention. "We cannot trust the word of an alien," one representative argued. "For all we know, this could be part of a more insidious plan." Russell's fists clenched under the table. He opened his mouth to retort, but Astra placed a calming hand on his arm. Her touch sent a shiver through him, momentarily quelling his anger. As the summit progressed, Dr. Martinez presented her findings on Vorkarian technology. Her proposal to adapt their advanced propulsion systems sparked intense discussion about the ethical implications of using alien tech. Amidst the debates, reports began to surface of isolated Vorkarian groups launching localized attacks. The global military mobilized quickly, led by the stern and capable Sergeant Sarah Cooper. Russell and Astra exchanged a look. "We need to help," Russell said, his voice low but determined. Astra nodded, her markings pulsing in agreement. "Our combined knowledge could be invaluable." They volunteered for a special task force, their unique partnership proving crucial in countering the Vorkarian threats. Their missions took them across the globe, from dense urban centers to remote wilderness. During one operation, they found themselves trapped in a collapsed Vorkarian outpost. Darkness enveloped them, broken only by the soft glow of Astra's markings. The close quarters and adrenaline of their near-death experience ignited something between them. Russell's hand found Astra's face in the dim light. Her skin was smooth and warm beneath his fingers. Without a word, they drew closer, their lips meeting in a kiss charged with months of unspoken emotion. Astra's markings flared brilliantly, bathing them in a mesmerizing display of light. The moment was shattered by the sound of shifting rubble. Sergeant Cooper's voice called out, "Russell? Astra? Can you hear me?" They broke apart, breathless and disoriented. As the rescue team cleared the debris, Russell and Astra shared a look of newfound understanding. Their relationship had irreversibly shifted, adding another layer of complexity to their already complicated lives. Their successful missions boosted global morale, but also drew unwanted attention. A radical group calling themselves the Earth First Coalition began spreading anti-alien propaganda. Posters depicting Astra as a threat appeared in cities worldwide. Russell and Astra found solace in each other's company during their rare moments of downtime. They spent evenings on the roof of their secure apartment, stargazing and sharing stories of their vastly different worlds. "That cluster there," Russell said, pointing to a group of stars. We call it Orion's Belt. Astra's markings rippled with curiosity. Fascinating. From my home world, those same stars form part of what we call the cosmic weaver's spindle. As they grew closer, Dr. Martinez made a breakthrough in reverse engineering Vorkarian communication technology. Her discovery of a long-range transmission sent before the mothership's destruction sent shockwaves through the global community. The possibility of Vorkarian reinforcements accelerated Earth's defense initiatives. A massive project to construct a planetary shield was launched, combining human innovation with adapted Vorkarian tech. Russell's geological expertise was invaluable in identifying suitable locations for the shield generators. He and Astra traveled the world, surveying potential sites and encountering a wide range of reactions to their presence. In a remote area of South America, they made a startling discovery. Hidden within an ancient Earth monument, they found a dormant Vorkarian device. The implications were staggering, suggesting a long-hidden connection between their species. As they stood before the newly constructed shield generator, overlooking a vast expanse of untamed wilderness, Russell turned to Astra. Her markings pulsed softly in the fading light, a sight that never failed to captivate him. "What do you think this means for us?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Astra's alien features creased in thought. "I'm not sure, Russell, but whatever comes next, we'll face it together." Their hands intertwined as they gazed at the horizon, the future uncertain but full of possibility. The challenges ahead were immense, but in that moment, with the warmth of Astra's hand in his, Russell felt ready to face whatever the universe might throw at them. As they turned away from the horizon, Russell's communicator chirped urgently. He frowned, checking the device. "It's Dr. Martinez," he said, meeting Astra's curious gaze. "She's detected an unusual energy signature in the Sahara Desert. Apparently, satellite imagery has revealed what looks like a hidden Vorkarian outpost." Astra's markings pulsed with surprise. "A Vorkarian outpost? Here on Earth?" "That's not all," Russell continued, scrolling through the message. "The data suggests it might predate the recent invasion." Their eyes met, a shared realization passing between them. This aligned perfectly with their earlier discovery of the dormant Vorkarian device in the South American monument. The implications were staggering. Within hours, they were airborne, heading towards the heart of the Sahara. Dr. Elena Martinez and Sergeant Sarah Cooper joined them, forming a small but elite team of specialists. As their transport skimmed over the endless sea of sand, Russell briefed the group on what little they knew. "The energy signature is unlike anything we've encountered before," Dr. Martinez explained, her eyes alight with scientific curiosity. "It's as if the outpost is actively trying to hide itself." Sergeant Cooper, ever vigilant, scanned the horizon. "Let's hope it stays hidden until we can secure the site. The last thing we need is the Earth First Coalition catching wind of this." As they approached the coordinates, Astra's markings began to pulse more rapidly. "I can sense something," she said, her voice tinged with awe. "It's faint, but familiar." The team touched down near a nondescript area of desert. At first glance, there was nothing to suggest the presence of an alien outpost. But as they spread out to search, Russell's trained eye caught something unusual in the sand patterns. "Here," he called out, brushing away layers of sand to reveal a metallic surface. "It looks like some kind of entrance." Working together, they cleared more sand, exposing an ornate door that seamlessly blended Vorkarian and ancient Egyptian design elements. Hieroglyphs intertwined with alien script, creating a mesmerizing pattern. "Incredible," Dr. Martinez breathed, running her fingers over the symbols. "This suggests a level of interaction between Vorkarians and ancient humans that we never imagined." Astra stepped forward, her markings glowing softly as she traced a specific sequence of symbols. With a low hum, the door began to slide open, revealing a dark passage leading underground. "How did you know?" Russell asked, unable to hide his amazement. Astra's alien features creased in concentration. "I'm not sure." It felt instinctual. As they descended into the complex, Russell's geological expertise came to the forefront. He identified safe passages through the unstable structure, guiding the team deeper into the facility. Astra's knowledge of Vorkarian technology proved invaluable, allowing them to bypass security measures and access sealed chambers. In one vast room, they discovered a treasure trove of Vorkarian records. Dr. Martinez immediately set to work, her fingers flying over her equipment as she began the arduous task of decoding and translating the information. This is unbelievable," she muttered, her eyes wide as she scanned the first translated passages. According to this, the Vorkarians visited Earth thousands of years ago. They conducted genetic experiments that influenced human evolution. The revelation hit the team like a physical blow. Russell felt his world tilt on its axis as he tried to process the information. He looked at Astra, seeing his own shock mirrored in her alien features. "This changes everything," Sergeant Cooper said, her usual stoic demeanor cracking slightly. "The invasion, our entire history." As the implications of their discovery swirled around them, Russell and Astra moved to explore another section of the complex. The narrow corridors forced them close together, and Russell found himself acutely aware of Astra's presence beside him. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet shuddered. Russell's warning shout came too late, as they accidentally triggered an ancient security system. The malfunction caused a violent cave-in, separating them from the rest of the team. Dust filled the air as Russell and Astra found themselves trapped in a small, enclosed space. The only light came from the soft glow of Astra's markings, which pulsed rapidly in response to her elevated emotions. "Are you okay?" Russell asked, his hand finding hers in the dim light. "Yes," Astra replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Are you?" Their eyes met, and Russell became intensely aware of their physical proximity. Astra's markings created mesmerizing patterns across her skin, and he found himself drawn to her in a way that transcended their already close bond. As they worked to find a way out, their hands brushed against each other, sending electric shocks through Russell's body. He could feel the warmth of Astra's breath, hear the quickening of her alien heartbeat. Just as the tension between them reached a fever pitch, Russell's hand pressed against a hidden panel. A section of wall slid away, revealing a chamber bathed in a soft, pulsating light. "What is that?" Astra breathed, her markings synchronizing with the light's rhythm. They stepped into the chamber, their momentary attraction overshadowed by the awe-inspiring sight before them. In the center of the room stood a device unlike anything they had encountered during the invasion. Its sleek design and pulsating energy spoke of technology far beyond their current understanding. "It's some kind of interstellar communication device," Astra said, her voice filled with wonder. "A prototype, I think, far more advanced than anything my people currently possess." Russell's mind raced with the possibilities. This could be the key to establishing contact with the Vorkarian homeworld, maybe even preventing future conflicts. As they examined the device, a distant explosion rocked the complex. Dust rained down from the ceiling, and the unstable structure groaned ominously around them. "We need to get back to the others," Russell said urgently. They rushed from the chamber, navigating the debris-strewn corridors. As they neared the main room, they heard the unmistakable sound of gunfire. Sergeant Cooper's voice crackled over their communicators. "We've got company. The Earth First Coalition somehow tracked us here. They're trying to destroy the outpost." Russell and Astra shared a look of commitment. They had uncovered secrets that could reshape humanity's understanding of its own history and potentially forge a new path forward with the Vorkarians. But first, they had to survive the immediate threat and secure the powerful artifact they had discovered. As another explosion shook the complex, Russell gripped Astra's hand tightly. Together, they pressed forward, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in their quest to unlock the mysteries of this ancient Vorkarian outpost and safeguard the future of both their species. And safeguard the future of both their worlds. As Russell and Astra raced through the crumbling corridors, the complex shuddered violently. Dust and debris rained down, forcing them to dodge falling chunks of ancient stone and metal. They could hear the sounds of battle echoing through the structure, growing louder with each passing moment. "We need to secure that artifact," Russell shouted over the cacophony. "It could be the key to everything." Astra nodded, her markings pulsing with dedication. They rounded a corner and found themselves face to face with the chamber housing the Vorkarian device. The entrance was blocked by a shimmering energy field, a last line of defense against intruders. Russell's eyes darted around, searching for a way to bypass the security. "Any ideas?" Astra stepped forward, her alien features set in concentration. "I might be able to interface with it. My people's technology often responds to our unique physiology." As Astra approached the energy field, her bioluminescent markings began to glow more intensely. She placed her hand against the shimmering barrier, and Russell watched in amazement as her markings pulsed in sync with the energy field. The air crackled with an otherworldly energy, and slowly, the barrier began to dissipate. "It's working," Russell exclaimed, his voice filled with awe. While Astra focused on deactivating the security measures, Russell's attention was drawn to the unstable structure around them. His geological expertise kicked in as he assessed the damage. "The chamber's collapsing. We need to reinforce it, or we'll be buried alive." Russell quickly identified the key stress points and set to work. He used debris from the corridor to create makeshift supports, his hands moving with practiced efficiency. As he worked, he couldn't help but marvel at Astra's alien beauty, her markings creating a mesmerizing light show as she communed with the ancient technology. With a final pulse of energy, the security field vanished completely. Astra stumbled back, momentarily drained from the effort. Russell caught her, steadying her with gentle hands. "You okay?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. Astra nodded, her alien eyes meeting his. "Yes, thank you. Let's get that artifact." They entered the chamber together, approaching the pedestal where the Vorkarian communication device rested. As they reached for it, the artifact began to emit a soft glow, responding to their presence. The moment their hands touched its surface, a surge of energy pulsed through the room. Russell gasped as he felt a strange connection forming between himself, Astra, and the device. Astra's bioluminescence synchronized with the artifact's pulsations, creating an intimacy that transcended physical boundaries. For a moment, it was as if they could sense each other's thoughts and emotions, their bond deepening in ways they never imagined possible. The moment was shattered by another violent tremor. "We need to move," Russell said urgently, carefully lifting the artifact from its resting place. As they made their way back through the complex, they encountered Dr. Martinez near the main chamber. Her eyes were wide with excitement despite the chaos around them. "I've done it!" she exclaimed. "I've downloaded the entire Vorkarian database. You won't believe what I found." Before she could elaborate, the sound of gunfire erupted nearby. A group of Earth First Coalition forces had breached the complex and were closing in fast. "Tell us later," Russell shouted. "We need to get out of here now." They ran through the corridors, the Coalition forces hot on their heels. Russell used his knowledge of the terrain to navigate through the least stable areas, causing cave-ins behind them to slow their pursuers. Astra employed her alien abilities, using her bioluminescence to create disorienting flashes of light that confused and delayed the attackers. As they rounded a corner, they found themselves trapped in a dead end. The Coalition forces were closing in, their footsteps echoing ominously through the complex. Russell and Astra shared a look of tenacity, preparing for a final stand. Suddenly, the Vorkarian artifact in Russell's hands began to pulse erratically. Before anyone could react, it released a powerful energy wave that swept through the corridor. The coalition forces collapsed, stunned by the unexpected assault on their senses. Russell, Astra, and Dr. Martinez were also knocked off their feet, momentarily disoriented. As they struggled to regain their bearings, they realized the pulse had affected more than just their attackers. The complex's systems were going haywire, and a deep, resonating hum filled the air. "What's happening?" Dr. Martinez asked, her voice tinged with fear. Astra's markings flickered rapidly as she processed the information. The pulse has triggered some kind of fail-safe mechanism. The complex is going to seal itself. Just then, Sergeant Cooper's voice crackled over their communicators. "I've secured the entrance. Where are you? We need to evacuate now." Russell helped Astra and Dr. Martinez to their feet. "We're on our way, but we've got a problem. The complex is about to lock down." They raced through the corridors, the hum growing louder with each passing second. They could hear the distant sound of massive stone doors beginning to close, sealing off sections of the complex one by one. As they neared the exit, Russell's mind raced with the implications of what they had discovered. The artifact in his hands could be the key to preventing future conflicts, but only if they could study it further. The information in the Vorkarian database could reshape humanity's understanding of its own history. They rounded the final corner and saw Sergeant Cooper waving them forward. Behind her, the last stone door was slowly descending, threatening to seal them inside forever. Russell looked at Astra, then at the artifact, and in that moment, he made a decision that would change everything. "Get Dr. Martinez out of here," he shouted to Sergeant Cooper. "Astra and I are going back." "What?" Dr. Martinez exclaimed. "You can't." But Russell had already turned, Astra by his side. They shared a look of understanding, their bond now strong enough that words were unnecessary. Together, they sprinted back into the depths of the complex, determined to stop the fail-safe mechanism and preserve the invaluable knowledge within. As they disappeared into the shadows, the final door slammed shut behind them, sealing their fate with the secrets of the ancient Vorkarian outpost. Outpost and its secrets. The thunderous boom of the closing door echoed through the complex, leaving Russell and Astra alone in the dimly lit corridor. "We need to find the control room," Astra said, her markings pulsing with persistence. "If we can deactivate the fail-safe mechanism, we might be able to prevent the loss of invaluable data." Russell nodded, his eyes scanning the ancient walls for any clues. "Look for Vorkarian symbols that might indicate a central command center." They moved swiftly through the winding passages, their footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. The artifact in Russell's hands continued to pulse, its rhythmic glow providing an otherworldly illumination. After several tense minutes, they came upon a large circular chamber filled with dormant consoles and unfamiliar technology. Astra's eyes widened as she took in the sight. "This is it," she breathed. "The control room." They approached the central console, its surface covered in a fine layer of dust. Astra's markings flared as she placed her hands on the panel, attempting to interface with the ancient system. "It's resisting," she said through gritted teeth. "The technology is so old, it's having trouble recognizing me as Vorkarian." Russell watched her struggle, feeling helpless. Suddenly, an idea struck him. "The artifact," he said, holding it out. "Maybe it can help establish a connection." Astra nodded, and together they pressed the artifact against the console. A surge of energy coursed through the room, causing the dormant systems to flicker to life. Holographic displays materialized around them, filling the air with streams of alien data. "It's working," Astra exclaimed, her fingers flying over the newly activated controls. "I'm accessing the fail-safe protocols now." As Astra worked to deactivate the lockdown, Russell studied the holographic displays. His eyes widened as he began to grasp the magnitude of what they had discovered. "Astra, look at this," he said, gesturing to a particular data stream. "These aren't just historical records. They're scientific data, star charts, technological schematics. This outpost was a research facility." Astra glanced up from her work, her alien features lit with excitement. "If we can preserve this information, it could revolutionize our understanding of both Vorkarian and human history." A low rumble reverberated through the complex, and the sound of grinding stone filled the air. Astra's markings pulsed triumphantly. "I've done it," she said. "The failsafe is deactivated, and the complex is unsealing itself." No sooner had the words left her mouth than their communicators crackled to life. Sergeant Cooper's voice came through, tinged with relief and irritation. "Russell, Astra, do you copy? What the hell were you thinking going back in there?" Russell couldn't help but grin as he responded. "We're fine, Sergeant, and we've just made the discovery of a lifetime." In the days that followed, the ancient Vorkarian outpost became a hive of activity. News of the discovery spread rapidly through scientific circles, and a joint task force was quickly assembled to study the site. Experts from various fields descended upon the complex, eager to unravel its secrets. Russell and Astra found themselves at the center of it all, their unique combination of human and Vorkarian knowledge proving invaluable. They worked tirelessly, poring over the vast amounts of data recovered from the outpost systems. One evening, as they hunched over a console in the makeshift research lab, Russell noticed Astra's markings pulsing erratically. He placed a hand on her shoulder, concern etched on his face. "You've been pushing yourself too hard," he said softly. "You need to rest." Astra looked up at him, her alien eyes meeting his. The air between them seemed to crackle with unspoken tension. "I can't stop now," she replied. "We're so close to a breakthrough." As if on cue, the Vorkarian communication device they had retrieved from the outpost began to emit a soft, pulsating glow. Russell and Astra exchanged a look of excitement and apprehension. "It's never done that before," Russell said, reaching for the artifact. As their hands touched the device simultaneously, a surge of energy coursed through them. The artifact's glow intensified, and suddenly, a holographic display materialized above it. It's a subspace link," Astra gasped, her markings synchronizing with the pulsing light. Before they could process what was happening, a voice echoed from the device, a voice speaking in the complex tones of the Vorkarian language. Astra's eyes widened in shock. "It's a transmission," she whispered, "from a Vorkarian science vessel." As she began to translate the message, Russell felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. This communication could change everything, for better or worse. He looked at Astra, her alien features illuminated by the soft glow of the artifact, and knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The transmission marked the beginning of a new chapter in human-Vorkarian relations, one that would test the limits of diplomacy, trust, and the bond between Russell and Astra. As the first words of the Vorkarian message filled the room, they stood on the precipice of a new era, ready to shape the future of both their species. As the first words of the Vorkarian message filled the room, Russell and Astra exchanged a look of excitement and trepidation, knowing that this moment would forever change the course of human and Vorkarian history. Over the next few weeks, the contents of the transmission were carefully analyzed and deciphered. The message revealed that a Vorkarian science fleet was en route to Earth, having detected the activation of the ancient outpost. This news sent shockwaves through the global community, prompting urgent meetings at the highest levels of government. As the Vorkarian ships approached Earth's solar system, Russell and Astra found themselves thrust into the spotlight. Their unique experiences and knowledge made them invaluable assets in preparing for humanity's first official contact with the Vorkarian civilization. The United Nations hastily assembled a diverse team of experts to support them. Dr. Elena Martinez, whose expertise in xenobiology had proven crucial in understanding Vorkarian physiology, was among the first to be called. Sergeant Sarah Cooper, whose quick thinking and combat skills had saved their lives multiple times, was brought in to oversee security measures. Perhaps most surprisingly, the team also included Zorn, the ancient Vorkarian who had been awakened from stasis during their earlier expedition. As the team worked tirelessly to establish a secure communication link with the approaching Vorkarian fleet, tensions on Earth reached a fever pitch. News of the impending arrival had leaked to the public, causing a mix of excitement, fear, and speculation. Using the advanced technology recovered from the ancient outpost, Russell and Astra successfully created a stable subspace channel. The first clear transmission from the Vorkarian fleet left them stunned. The commanding officer's face appeared on the holographic display, his features strikingly familiar to Astra. "Greetings, people of Earth," the Vorkarian said, his voice resonating with authority. "I am High Commander Vex of the Vorkarian Science Fleet. We come in peace, seeking to re-establish contact with our long-lost outpost." Astra's markings pulsed erratically as she stared at the screen. "Father," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Russell placed a comforting hand on her shoulder, feeling the tension radiating from her body. The revelation that the fleet was led by Astra's father, who had been searching for his daughter since her defection, added a deeply personal dimension to the already complex diplomatic situation. As the Vorkarian ships entered Earth's orbit, world governments activated the newly enhanced planetary defense network. The integration of Vorkarian shield technology with human satellite systems created a protective barrier around the planet, a testament to the potential of human-Vorkarian cooperation. High Commander Vex's voice crackled through the communication channel once more. "Impressive," he said, a note of grudging respect in his tone. "It seems our technology has not been wasted here. We request a face-to-face meeting with Earth's representatives." The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session to discuss the request. After heated debate, they designated a neutral meeting ground in the Sahara Desert, near the site of the ancient Vorkarian outpost. Within days, a temporary diplomatic compound was constructed, its architecture a blend of human and Vorkarian design elements. As the day of the historic meeting approached, Russell and Astra worked around the clock, their intimate knowledge of both cultures proving invaluable in preparing the human delegation. Late one night, as they pored over cultural briefings and diplomatic protocols, the weight of their responsibilities seemed to press down on them. Astra's markings dimmed, a sign of her exhaustion. "Russell," she said softly, "what if this goes wrong? What if my father—" Russell moved closer, his hand finding hers. "We've come too far to fail now," he assured her. The air between them seemed to crackle with unspoken tension, their faces drawing closer in the dim light of the strategy room. The moment was interrupted by a sharp knock on the door. Sergeant Cooper entered, her expression serious. "They're here," she announced. The Vorkarian ships had begun their descent. Russell and Astra sprang into action, their near moment of intimacy pushed aside by the gravity of the situation. They hurried to the compound's main atrium, joining the rest of their team as they prepared to greet the Vorkarian delegation. Outside, a small contingent of Vorkarian ships descended from orbit, their sleek forms gleaming in the desert sun. As they touched down, a hush fell over the assembled human observers. The ship's hatches opened with a hiss of escaping air, and out stepped High Commander Vex, flanked by a team of Vorkarian diplomats and scientists. Russell felt Astra stiffen beside him as her father approached. The High Commander's eyes locked onto his daughter, a complex mix of emotions playing across his alien features. "Astra," Vex said, his voice carrying across the silent compound. "You've been missed." Astra stepped forward, her markings pulsing with a mix of anxiety and persistence. "Father," she replied, her voice steady, "welcome to Earth." As the two groups converged, Russell couldn't help but feel the weight of history on his shoulders. This moment, this meeting, would shape the future of both species for generations to come. With a deep breath, he stepped forward to begin the introductions, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in this new chapter of human-Vorkarian relations. As the Vorkarian delegation settled into their quarters, Russell and Astra found themselves thrust into a new role: architects of the future. The United Nations Security Council, recognizing the potential benefits of closer human-Vorkarian cooperation, tasked the pair with developing a comprehensive exchange program. They were given access to a cutting-edge facility that blended human and Vorkarian technology, a testament to the rapid progress made since the discovery of the ancient outpost. Russell marveled at the sleek design of the hybrid consoles as he and Astra pored over data streams and cultural briefings. The air hummed with the software of advanced machinery, a constant reminder of the two worlds colliding in this space. "We need to consider the physiological differences," Astra said, her markings pulsing with concentration. She leaned closer to the holographic display, her shoulder brushing against Russell's. Even simple things like atmospheric composition could pose challenges for long-term exchanges. Russell nodded, acutely aware of Astra's proximity. "You're right. We should consult with Dr. Martinez on that front. Her expertise in xenobiology will be crucial." As they worked, the intensity of their task seemed to magnify the tension between them. Their fingers would brush as they reached for the same control, sending a jolt of electricity through Russell's body. He found himself stealing glances at Astra, admiring the way her alien features softened in the glow of the holographic displays. One evening, as they worked late into the night, Russell noticed Astra's markings dimming, a sign of her fatigue. Without thinking, he reached out and placed a hand on her shoulder. "We should take a break," he said softly. Astra turned to face him, their faces mere inches apart. Her alien eyes searched his, and for a moment, the air between them seemed to crackle with unspoken desire. Russell felt himself leaning in, drawn by an irresistible force. A sharp knock at the door shattered the moment. They sprang apart as Sergeant Cooper entered, her expression grave. "We have a situation," she announced. "High Commander Vex is requesting a private meeting with you, Russell." Russell exchanged a worried glance with Astra before following Cooper out of the room. The walk to the diplomatic wing felt longer than usual, his mind racing with possibilities. He found Vex in a sparsely decorated meeting room, the Vorkarian leader's imposing figure silhouetted against the window. As Russell entered, Vex turned, his alien features unreadable. "Mr. Chun," Vex said, his voice carrying a hint of challenge, "I believe it's time we discussed your relationship with my daughter." Russell straightened his spine, meeting Vex's gaze. "With all due respect, High Commander, my relationship with Astra is not up for discussion. What matters is our commitment to this exchange program and the future of human-Vorkarian relations." Vex's eyes narrowed, but Russell pressed on, his voice gaining strength. "Astra and I represent the potential of our species working together. We've faced challenges, overcome differences, and found common ground. Isn't that exactly what this program aims to achieve on a larger scale?" For a long moment, Vex was silent. Then, to Russell's surprise, the corners of the Vorkarian's mouth twitched in what might have been the alien equivalent of a smile. "You have courage, Mr. Chun. Perhaps my daughter has chosen wisely after all." As Russell left the meeting, his heart still pounding, he nearly collided with Dr. Martinez. The xenobiologist's eyes were wide with excitement. "Russell, I've made a breakthrough," she exclaimed. "But it's not all good news. We need to talk to Astra and the others immediately." They hurried back to the research facility, where they found Astra deep in conversation with Sergeant Cooper. The security officer's face was grim as she brought them up to speed. "We've uncovered a plot," Cooper said, her voice low. "Remnants of the Earth First Coalition. They're planning to sabotage the exchange program using a modified version of the EMP device that took down the mothership." Russell felt a chill run down his spine. "We can't let that happen. Where are they based?" "An abandoned military bunker," Cooper replied. "But it's heavily fortified. We'll need both human and Vorkarian expertise to breach it." Russell turned to Astra, their eyes meeting in silent communication. She nodded, her markings pulsing with perseverance. "We'll go," Russell said. "We're the best equipped to handle whatever hybrid systems they might be using." As they prepared for the mission, Dr. Martinez pulled them aside. "There's something else you need to know," she said, her voice tinged with concern. "My research shows that prolonged exposure to Earth's atmosphere is having subtle but potentially harmful effects on the Vorkarians. We need to accelerate the exchange program to find a solution." The weight of this new information settled over them as they boarded the transport to the bunker. Russell felt Astra's hand slip into his, a gesture of comfort and solidarity. As the vehicle sped across the desert landscape, he knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The abandoned bunker loomed before them, a relic of past conflicts now host to a new threat. Russell and Astra approached cautiously, their steps in perfect sync. The entrance was secured by an advanced locking mechanism, a fusion of human and Vorkarian technology. "We'll need to work together to bypass this," Astra whispered, her markings pulsing softly in the dim light. They positioned themselves on either side of the control panel, their bodies close enough that Russell could feel the warmth radiating from Astra's alien physiology. As they manipulated the hybrid interface, their movements became a choreographed dance of human and Vorkarian precision. The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a corridor bathed in eerie blue light. They moved forward, every sense alert for signs of danger. The facility's layout was a maze of twisting passages and sealed chambers, each one requiring their combined expertise to navigate. As they delved deeper into the bunker, Russell's unease grew. The level of technology they encountered spoke of resources far beyond what a fringe group like the Earth First Coalition should possess. He shared a concerned look with Astra, knowing she had come to the same conclusion. "We need to find out who's really behind this," he murmured. Astra nodded, her alien features set in drive. "The control room should be just ahead. That's where we'll find our answers." They approached the final security checkpoint, a massive door protected by the most complex hybrid system they'd encountered yet. As they worked to bypass it, alarms suddenly blared to life. Red lights flashed, and the sound of heavy machinery echoed through the corridor. "They know we're here," Astra said, her fingers flying over the control panel. The door began to slide shut, threatening to seal them out. Without hesitation, Russell wedged himself into the narrowing gap, using his body to keep it open. "Hurry," he grunted, feeling the pressure increase. Astra redoubled her efforts, her markings pulsing rapidly. With seconds to spare, the door's mechanism faltered, and it slid open. They tumbled through, finding themselves in a vast chamber filled with banks of computers and holographic displays. At the center stood a figure in a military uniform, his back to them as he worked at a central console. As they approached, he turned, revealing a face etched with lines of bitterness and dedication. "Colonel Hawkins," Russell breathed, recognizing the man from military briefings. Hawkins sneered, his hand hovering over a large red button. "You're too late," he snarled. "The future of humanity will not be decided by alien influence." As Russell prepared to lunge forward, the room was suddenly bathed in a brilliant white light. A new voice, ancient and resonant, filled the chamber. "Perhaps," it said, "it is time for both our peoples to learn from the past." All eyes turned to see Zorn, the ancient Vorkarian. Standing in the doorway, flanked by a team of human and Vorkarian security personnel. His presence seemed to fill the room, a living bridge between two worlds separated by millennia of history. In that moment of distraction, Astra made her move. Her fingers danced across the nearest console, executing a series of commands with inhuman speed. The lights on the EMP device flickered and died, its threat neutralized. As Hawkins was taken into custody, Russell and Astra shared a look of relief and triumph. They had averted a crisis, but the challenges ahead were a long way to go. The discovery of military involvement in the Earth First plot would have far-reaching consequences for the exchange program and human-Vorkarian relations. Exhausted but exhilarated, they made their way back to the diplomatic compound. As the adrenaline of their mission faded, the unpurposed tension between them rose to the surface. In a quiet corner, away from prying eyes, they found themselves drawn together, the barriers between their species seeming to dissolve. Russell reached out, his fingers tracing the luminescent patterns on Astra's skin. She leaned into his touch, her alien eyes filled with an emotion that needed no translation. As they moved closer, the air charged with possibility. A comm unit on Russell's belt suddenly crackled to life. "Russell, Astra," came the urgent voice of Dr. Martinez. "The Security Council has reached a decision on the exchange program. You're needed in the main conference room immediately." They pulled apart, the moment broken but not forgotten. As they hurried to meet their new future, Russell knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, the bond between human and Vorkarian, between himself and Astra, would be the key to overcoming them. As they entered the main conference room, Russell felt Astra's hand brush against his, a subtle gesture of support and solidarity. The room buzzed with nervous energy as they took their seats at the large, circular table. Human and Vorkarian representatives filled the chairs, their gazes fixed on the holographic display at the center. Dr. Martinez stood nearby, her expression a mix of excitement and apprehension. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," began the Security Council chairwoman, her voice crisp and authoritative. "After careful consideration of Dr. Martinez's findings and the recent events at the bunker, we reached a decision regarding the human-Vorkarian exchange program." Russell held his breath, acutely aware of Astra's markings pulsing rapidly beside him. "The program is approved," the chairwoman announced. Her words met with a collective sigh of relief. "Furthermore, we're establishing a joint human-Vorkarian research facility here on Earth. Mr. Chu and Ms. Astra, you two will be overseeing its development and implementation." The room erupted in a flurry of murmurs and exclamations. Russell turned to Astra, their eyes meeting in a moment of shared surprise and elation. "The chosen location," the chairwoman continued, "is a remote area in the Australian outback. Its isolation and unique geological features make it ideal for our purposes." As the briefing continued, Russell's mind raced with possibilities. His background in geology would be crucial in selecting the specific site and planning the facility's layout. He glanced at Astra, noting the gleam of excitement in her alien eyes. The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind of activity. Russell and Astra found themselves at the heart of a massive logistical operation, coordinating teams of human and Vorkarian experts as they began the monumental task of merging two vastly different technological approaches. The Australian outback stretched before them, a vast expanse of red earth and rugged beauty. Russell wiped sweat from his brow as he surveyed the construction site, the skeleton of the facility already taking shape against the harsh landscape. "The geothermal system is giving us some trouble," Astra said, approaching with a datapad in hand. Her markings shimmered in the intense sunlight. "The human engineers are having difficulty integrating it with the Vorkarian power core." Russell nodded, studying the schematics on the datapad. "Let's bring in Dr. Patel from the Energy Division. Her expertise in thermodynamics might be just what we need." As they worked to solve the latest in a seemingly endless series of challenges, Russell couldn't help but marvel at how seamlessly he and Astra had fallen into their roles as co-leaders. Their strengths complemented each other perfectly, human intuition blending with Vorkarian logic to overcome obstacles that would have stymied either species alone. The facility's design was a testament to their collaboration, a harmonious blend of human and Vorkarian architecture. Sleek metallic structures housed advanced laboratories, while open-air gardens provided spaces for relaxation and cultural exchange. As the weeks turned into months, Russell and Astra's partnership deepened. They spent long hours poring over plans, troubleshooting systems, and mediating disputes between human and Vorkarian team members. In quiet moments, they found themselves drawn to each other, their bond growing stronger with each shared challenge. One evening, as they worked late in the temporary command center, Russell noticed Astra's markings dimming, a sign of fatigue he had come to recognize. "We should take a break," he suggested, stretching his tired muscles. "How about a walk? The sunset here is spectacular." Astra agreed, and they stepped out into the cooling air of the desert evening. As they walked, Russell pointed out geological formations, explaining their significance with passionate enthusiasm. Astra listened intently, her alien features softening in the fading light. Their moment of peace was interrupted by the arrival of a transport ship, its engines cutting through the silence of the desert. As it touched down, a familiar figure emerged. "High Commander Vex," Russell murmured, straightening his posture. Astra's father strode towards them, his imposing presence seeming to fill the open space. "I've come to personally oversee the Vorkarian side of the exchange program," he announced, his gaze moving between Russell and his daughter. The weeks that followed brought new challenges. Vex's presence added an extra layer of scrutiny to their work, his initial skepticism gradually giving way to grudging respect as he witnessed the effectiveness of Russell and Astra's partnership. As the facility neared completion, global attention intensified. Media outlets from around the world clamored for access, turning Russell and Astra into reluctant celebrities. They found themselves under constant observation, their every move analyzed and dissected by both human and Vorkarian observers. The pressure of public attention began to strain their relationship. Stolen moments of privacy became increasingly rare, forcing them to find subtle ways to communicate their growing feelings amidst the chaos of their work. One afternoon, as they conducted a final inspection of the main laboratory, an urgent alert sounded from the communication hub. They rushed to respond, finding Dr. Martinez's excited face on the main screen. "I've done it!" she exclaimed, her eyes shining with triumph. "I've developed a treatment that allows Vorkarians to better adapt to Earth's atmosphere. This should significantly reduce the harmful effects of long-term exposure." The news sent a wave of excitement through the facility. This breakthrough would be crucial for the success of the exchange program, allowing for extended Vorkarian stays on Earth. As they celebrated this victory, another alert blared through the facility. The chief of security's voice crackled over the intercom. "We're under cyber attack. Earth-first remnants are attempting to breach our systems." Russell and Astra sprang into action, their earlier fatigue forgotten as they raced to the control room. They found it buzzing with activity, human and Vorkarian technicians working frantically to repel the attack. "They're targeting our power grid," a human analyst reported, her fingers flying over a keyboard. "And our communication array," added a Vorkarian technician, his markings pulsing rapidly with stress. Russell and Astra shared a determined look. Without a word, they took their positions at adjacent consoles, their movements perfectly synchronized as they began to coordinate the facility's defenses. As the battle raged in the digital realm, alarms suddenly blared throughout the compound. A new threat had emerged, one that would test the limits of human-Vorkarian cooperation and push Russell and Astra's relationship to its breaking point. As Russell and Astra rushed to confront the intruders, a blinding flash of light erupted from the ancient chamber, bathing the facility in an otherworldly glow. The light faded, revealing a pulsing Vorkarian device at the center of the chamber. Its activation sent waves of energy rippling through the air, causing the hair on Russell's arms to stand on end. Astra's markings flashed rapidly, her eyes wide with recognition. "It's a beacon," she breathed, her voice a mix of awe and concern. An ancient Vorkarian homing signal. Before Russell could respond, the facility's communication systems crackled to life. Unidentified vessels entering Earth's atmosphere announced a tense voice. Multiple Vorkarian ships on rapid approach. Russell and Astra shared a look of alarm. The implications of this development were staggering. As they raced to the command center, alarms blared throughout the compound. The main screen displayed a fleet of sleek Vorkarian ships descending through the clouds, their design more advanced than anything Russell had seen before. Within hours, they touched down on the outskirts of the facility, kicking up clouds of red dust. High Commander Vex emerged from the lead ship, flanked by a team of Vorkarian scientists and security personnel. His imposing figure seemed to fill the entire landing pad as he strode towards the facility. Russell and Astra hurried to meet him, acutely aware of the growing tension among the human staff. Whispers and nervous glances followed in their wake as they made their way through the corridors. "Father," Astra greeted Vex, her markings pulsing with a mix of respect and apprehension. Vex's gaze swept over them, lingering on Russell. "The ancient beacon has been activated," he stated, his tone leaving no room for question. "Show me." As they led the Vorkarian delegation to the chamber, Russell worked quickly to establish a secure perimeter. He coordinated with the facility's security team, ensuring that both human and Vorkarian personnel were integrated into the protective detail. Inside the chamber, the Vorkarian scientists immediately set to work, their movements precise and efficient as they examined the ancient technology. Russell watched in fascination as they interfaced with systems that had lain dormant for millennia. Suddenly, one of the scientists called out, her markings flashing excitedly. A holographic display sprang to life, filling the chamber with ghostly images of long-dead Vorkarians. As the recordings played, Russell felt the ground shift beneath his feet. The implications of what he was seeing were enormous. Earth, it seemed, had been part of a vast Vorkarian exploration initiative thousands of years ago. The hologram spoke of seeding compatible planets with Vorkarian genetic material, explaining the physiological similarities that allowed for their current compatibility. Russell's mind reeled as he processed this information, understanding dawning on him. "We're related?" he asked, turning to Astra. Her eyes met his, filled with a mixture of wonder and uncertainty. "It appears so," she replied softly. As the gravity of the situation sank in, the chamber erupted into a flurry of activity. Vorkarian scientists conferred in rapid, clicking speech while human researchers furiously typed notes into their tablets. High Commander Vex's voice cut through the chaos. "This information must be verified and its implications fully understood," he declared. "We must convene with your world's leaders immediately." Within hours, news of the discovery had spread like wildfire. The United Nations called an emergency session, and the scientific community was in an uproar. Theories of human evolution were being rewritten in real time. Russell and Astra found themselves at the center of a media storm. Reporters from around the globe descended on the Australian facility, their cameras and microphones thrust into every available space. As they navigated the sea of press, Russell felt Astra's hand slip into his. He squeezed it gently, drawing strength from her presence. Together, they faced a barrage of questions, their responses carefully measured. "We're still in the early stages of understanding this discovery," Russell explained to a cluster of eager journalists. "What we can say is that it opens up exciting new avenues for human-Vorkarian cooperation." Astra nodded in agreement. "This shared heritage only reinforces the importance of our exchange program," she added, her markings pulsing steadily. As the days wore on, security at the facility tightened. Sergeant Sarah Cooper, a stern-faced woman with a reputation for thoroughness, was brought in to oversee a joint human-Vorkarian security team. We're implementing advanced protocols to protect the sensitive information and technology at this site, Cooper informed Russell and Astra during a briefing. No unauthorized personnel are to enter the ancient chamber under any circumstances. Despite these measures, tensions continued to simmer. Russell could sense the unease among some of the human staff, their whispered conversations falling silent whenever he or Astra approached. Late one night, as Russell and Astra were reviewing data from the ancient chamber, an urgent alert flashed across their screens. Security feeds showed a group of figures moving stealthily towards a restricted area. "It's Dr. Holt and his team," Russell said, recognizing the lead figure. "What are they doing?" Astra's markings flashed with alarm. "They're heading for the chamber. We must stop them." They raced through the facility, their footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. As they approached the chamber, they could hear the sound of equipment being moved. Russell burst through the door, Astra close behind him. "Dr. Holt, stop what you're doing immediately." Holt spun around, his eyes wild with fervor. "You don't understand," he snarled. "This Vorkarian influence must be purged from humanity. We must preserve our purity." Before Russell could react, Holt activated a device in his hand. A high-pitched whine filled the air, causing Astra to cry out in pain. Her markings flickered erratically as she collapsed to her knees. Acting on instinct, Russell lunged forward, knocking the device from Holt's grasp. It skittered across the floor, its malevolent hum fading as it powered down. Security personnel flooded into the chamber, quickly subduing Holt and his accomplices. Russell knelt beside Astra, cradling her in his arms as her markings slowly stabilized. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice thick with concern. Astra nodded weakly, her eyes meeting his. "I will be," she assured him. As they helped Astra to her feet, High Commander Vex entered the chamber, his expression grave. He surveyed the scene, his gaze lingering on his daughter and the human who held her so protectively. "It seems," Vex said slowly, "that we have much to learn from each other still." He turned to Russell, his posture softening almost imperceptibly. "Your quick action may have saved my daughter's life. For that, you have my gratitude." Russell nodded, still supporting Astra. "We're in this together now," he replied. "Human and Vorkarian." Vex considered this for a moment, then spoke again. "Perhaps it is time we took the next step in our exchange program. I propose we establish a human enclave on our homeworld." The announcement sent a ripple of excitement through the room. Russell and Astra exchanged a look of surprise and hope. "We would be honored to help select the first group of human representatives," Astra said, her markings beginning to pulse with renewed vigor. As the night gave way to dawn, Russell and Astra stood together at the facility's observation deck, watching the sun rise over the vast Australian landscape. The events of the past few hours had changed everything, opening up new possibilities and challenges. "Are you ready for this?" Russell asked, turning to Astra. She met his gaze, her alien eyes filled with commitment and something else, something warmer. "Together," she said simply, taking his hand in hers. As they looked out at the new day, Russell knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it side by side, a bridge between two worlds that were more closely linked than anyone had ever imagined. Dreamed possible, the sun rose higher, casting a warm glow over the facility, a silent promise of the new era dawning for both species. In the days that followed, Russell and Astra found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of activity. The announcement of a human enclave on the Vorkarian homeworld had set in motion a series of events that would reshape the future of both civilizations. "We need to establish a rigorous selection process," Russell said, poring over data on his tablet as he walked alongside Astra through the bustling corridors of the facility. "Physical and psychological evaluations, simulations of Vorkarian gravity and atmospheric conditions." Astra nodded, her markings pulsing in agreement. We must ensure the candidates can withstand the challenges they'll face on my world. They set up a series of test chambers, each designed to push potential delegates to their limits. Russell watched as hopeful candidates emerged from the simulations, some exhilarated, others shaken. As the selection process continued, Russell found himself spending increasing amounts of time in the refined protective suit he had volunteered to test. The simulation chamber hummed with energy as he stepped inside, the air shimmering as it adjusted to mimic Vorkarian conditions. Initiating test sequence, Dr. Martinez's voice crackled over the intercom. "How are you feeling, Russell?" "So far, so good," he replied, his voice slightly distorted by the suit's communication system. He moved cautiously, feeling the increased gravity pull at his limbs. Hours ticked by as Russell navigated the alien environment. To his surprise, he found each session easier than the last, his body seemingly adapting to the harsh conditions. Astra observed from the control room, her alien eyes fixed on the monitors displaying Russell's vital signs. "His adaptation rate is unusual," she murmured to Dr. Martinez. The doctor nodded, her brow furrowed in concentration. "I've never seen anything like it. We need to run some additional tests." Days later, Russell sat on an examination table as Dr. Martinez reviewed the results of his genetic tests. The doctor's eyes widened as she scrolled through the data. "This is extraordinary," she breathed. "Russell, your DNA shows traces of dormant Vorkarian genes. They seem to have been activated by your recent exposures." Russell blinked, trying to process the information. "What does that mean?" "It means," Astra interjected, her markings pulsing rapidly, "that the ancient Vorkarian seeding of Earth left a more significant imprint than we ever imagined. You, Russell, may be living proof of our shared heritage." The discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Suddenly, Russell found himself not just an observer of the selection process, but a prime candidate for the mission to the Vorkarian homeworld. High Commander Vex requested a private meeting with Russell and Astra. As they entered his temporary office in the facility, Russell felt a mix of anticipation and unease. Vex's piercing gaze settled on Russell. "Your genetic adaptability is intriguing," he said, his tone carefully neutral. "There is something you both should know." He activated a holographic display, showing complex Vorkarian genetic sequences. "There exists a subset of our people with the ability to interbreed with compatible species. It is a closely guarded secret, but one that may have significant implications for our future relations." Russell and Astra exchanged a glance, the air between them charged with unspoken possibilities. As preparations for the Vorkarian mission intensified, so did the attention from the world's media. Russell and Astra found themselves thrust into the spotlight, their every move scrutinized and analyzed. "How does it feel to be at the forefront of this historic mission?" a reporter shouted, thrusting a microphone towards them as they exited a briefing. Russell fielded the questions as best he could, feeling Astra's steadying presence beside him. "We're focused on ensuring the success and safety of the mission," he replied, his voice calm despite the chaos around them. The pressure of constant public attention began to wear on them both. One evening, seeking a moment of peace, they retreated to the ancient chamber where their journey had begun. "Sometimes I wish we could go back to when it was just us, exploring the unknown," Astra said softly, her hand brushing against the dormant Vorkarian device. Russell nodded, understanding her sentiment. "We're still exploring the unknown, Astra. It's just on a much larger scale now." Their moment of reflection was interrupted by an urgent alert from Sergeant Cooper. "We've detected another cyber attack from the Earth First Coalition." Her voice crackled over their comms. "They're targeting our communication systems." Russell and Astra rushed to the control room, where they found Cooper coordinating the facility's cyber defense team. "We need to implement the hybrid encryption protocol," Russell said, sliding into a seat at one of the terminals. Astra joined him, her fingers flying over the alien interface. "Integrating Vorkarian security algorithms now," she announced. Together, they worked to repel the attack, their movements synchronized, human and Vorkarian technology merging seamlessly under their guidance. As the date of departure approached, the United Nations organized a global broadcast to introduce the selected human delegation. Russell and Astra stood before a sea of cameras, the weight of history on their shoulders. "Today, we take the next step in our shared journey," Russell began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. Astra continued, her markings pulsing with controlled excitement. "These brave individuals will represent humanity on our homeworld, forging new bonds of understanding and cooperation." The final preparations for the mission were a flurry of activity. A Vorkarian transport ship descended from the sky, touching down at the newly constructed spaceport adjacent to the research facility. Its sleek, alien design drew gasps from the gathered crowds. As Russell underwent his final medical examinations, Dr. Martinez fitted him with an advanced version of the protective suit. "This incorporates some of the Vorkarian biotechnology," she explained, adjusting the suit settings. "It should provide you with unprecedented protection and comfort." The day of departure arrived with a mix of anticipation and tension. As Russell and the human delegation prepared to board the transport ship, Astra approached him, her expression conflicted. "I've made a decision," she said, her voice low. "I'm coming with you as a cultural liaison. My father, he's not pleased, but he's approved my participation." Russell's surprise quickly gave way to relief and joy. "I'm glad," he said simply, knowing no other words were necessary. As they boarded the ship under heavy security, neither of them could have predicted the chaos that was about to unfold. The Earth First Coalition's final, desperate attack was only the beginning of a journey that would test their persistence, their adaptability, and the strength of the bond between their two species. The transport ship hummed to life, its alien engines pulsing with energy as it prepared for liftoff. Russell and Astra exchanged a final glance at the Australian landscape below, their hands intertwined as they stepped into the airlock. As the doors sealed shut, a violent tremor shook the vessel. Alarms blared, and the ship's interior lights flickered ominously. "What's happening?" Russell shouted over the cacophony, steadying himself against a bulkhead. Astra's markings flashed rapidly as she interfaced with the ship systems. Energy surge detected. It's emanating from the research facility. Through the viewports, they watched in horror as a brilliant pulse of energy erupted from the ancient chamber, engulfing the ship in a blinding light. The vessel lurched sideways, careening off its intended trajectory. "We're losing control," the Vorkarian pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. "All systems are malfunctioning." Russell and Astra raced to the bridge, where chaos reigned. Vorkarian crew members worked feverishly at their stations, attempting to regain control of the ship's trajectory. "The navigational systems are offline," Astra reported, her fingers dancing across the alien interface. "We're flying blind." Russell quickly assessed the situation. "We need to stabilize our course. Can we engage the auxiliary thrusters?" A Vorkarian engineer nodded, his movements swift and precise as he rerouted power to the secondary systems. The ship shuddered, then gradually steadied as the thrusters fired. Hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. Russell and Astra worked tirelessly alongside the Vorkarian crew, combining their knowledge to address each crisis as it arose. Slowly, they brought the ship's vital systems back online. As the immediate danger passed, exhaustion set in. Russell wiped sweat from his brow, his muscles aching from the strain. "Where are we?" he asked, peering out at the unfamiliar star field that surrounded them. Astra shook her head, her markings pulsing slowly. "Unknown. We've traveled far beyond our intended course. These star patterns don't match any in our database." A tense silence fell over the bridge as the implications of their situation sank in. They were lost in uncharted space, with no way to contact Earth or the Vorkarian homeworld. "Captain," one of the Vorkarian crew members called out, "I'm detecting a planetary body nearby. Initial scans indicate conditions similar to both Earth and Vorkaria." All eyes turned to the main view screen as an image of the planet materialized. Its surface was a patchwork of blues, greens, and earthy browns, eerily reminiscent of both their homeworlds. The ship's captain, a stern-faced Vorkarian named Zalax, surveyed the crew. "Our resources are limited, and we have no way of knowing how long it will take to establish contact with our worlds. I propose we attempt a landing and establish a base of operations." Russell nodded in agreement. "It's our best option. I can lead a survey team to assess the planet's surface." As preparations for planetfall began, Russell donned his advanced protective suit. Dr. Martinez ran a final systems check, her face etched with concern. "Remember, we don't know what you'll encounter down there. Be cautious." The landing craft detached from the main ship, descending through the planet's atmosphere. As they broke through the cloud cover, Russell gasped at the landscape below. Rolling hills covered in vegetation gave way to vast plains, punctuated by glittering bodies of water. The craft touched down in a clearing near the edge of a dense forest. Russell was the first to step onto the alien soil, his boots sinking slightly into the soft ground. He took a deep breath, tasting the air through his suit's filtration system. "Atmosphere reads as breathable," he reported. "Gravity feels close to Earth normal." Astra emerged from the craft, her markings pulsing with excitement. "The mineral composition is fascinating," she said, kneeling to examine the soil. "It's like a blend of Earth and Vorkarian geology." As the team set up a perimeter and began assembling their base camp, Russell and Astra ventured further into the surrounding area. The vegetation was unlike anything they had seen before. Plants that seemed to combine characteristics of Earth flora with the bioluminescent qualities of Vorkarian plant life. "Look at this," Astra called out, gesturing towards a rocky outcropping. As they approached, Russell's eyes widened in disbelief. The rock face was etched with intricate patterns, too precise to be natural formations. "These are artificial," he murmured, running his hand over the smooth surface. "But they're not just Vorkarian designs. There are elements here that remind me of ancient Earth cultures." Their discovery spurred the team into action. Over the next few days, they expanded their search, uncovering more evidence of an ancient civilization. Crumbling structures emerged from the undergrowth, their architecture a strange fusion of human and Vorkarian styles. Dr. Martinez, who had joined the ground team, was beside herself with excitement. "This is incredible," she exclaimed, examining a fragment of what appeared to be advanced technology. "The implications are staggering. This could be evidence of early Vorkarian genetic experiments." As they delved deeper into their exploration, Russell and Astra found themselves working more closely than ever. The challenges of their new environment seemed to intensify their connection, each obstacle overcome, bringing them closer together. One evening, as they sat reviewing their findings, Russell noticed a change in his perception. The bioluminescent plants around them seemed brighter, their colors more vivid. He mentioned this to Astra, whose markings pulsed with surprise. "Your pupils," she said, leaning in close to examine his eyes. "They're reacting like a Vorkarian's would. The changes in your DNA must be progressing." Before Russell could respond, a loud rumble shook the ground beneath them. A section of Earth near their camp began to shift, revealing a hidden entrance to an underground chamber. "Alert the others," Russell said, his heart racing with anticipation. "I think we've just stumbled onto something big." As the team gathered around the entrance, floodlights illuminating the ancient stonework, Russell and Astra exchanged a look of commitment. Whatever secrets this planet held, they would uncover them together. The next phase of their journey was about to begin, and with it, the potential to rewrite the history of both their species. As Russell and Astra stood at the entrance of the underground chamber, their hearts racing with anticipation, a violent tremor shook the ground beneath their feet. The earth rumbled and shifted, causing loose debris to rain down from above. "Everyone, take cover," Russell shouted, pulling Astra away from the opening as larger chunks of rock began to fall. The team scrambled to safety, watching in awe as the tremors intensified. Suddenly, a brilliant flash of light illuminated the sky, momentarily blinding them. As their vision cleared, they saw an enormous solar flare erupting from the system's star, its tendrils reaching out across space. Dr. Martinez's eyes widened in realization. "The planet's magnetic field is fluctuating. We need to protect our equipment." Russell sprang into action, his enhanced physiology allowing him to move with surprising speed and agility. "Astra, help me gather all the sensitive electronics. We need to create makeshift Faraday cages." As they worked feverishly to protect their technology, the air around them crackled with static electricity. The bioluminescent plants pulsed erratically, their patterns disrupted by the electromagnetic disturbances. Astra's markings flashed rapidly as she interfaced with their remaining functional systems. "The communication array is down," she reported grimly. "We're cut off from the ship and our home worlds." Russell nodded, his mind racing. "We need to focus on immediate survival. Let's deploy those energy-absorbing devices we developed based on Vorkarian tech." As the solar storm raged on, the team worked tirelessly to safeguard their camp and equipment. Russell found himself pushing his body to its limits, surprised at his own endurance. He noticed that while his human teammates struggled with the changing atmospheric conditions, he seemed to adapt more easily. "Russell," Dr. Martinez called out, her voice filled with concern and curiosity, "your physiological readings are off the charts. How are you feeling?" He paused, realizing that he felt more invigorated than exhausted. "I feel different, stronger, somehow." Astra approached, her eyes scanning his body. "Your DNA changes are accelerating. You're becoming more Vorkarian by the minute." Before they could discuss this development further, a group of Zenari approached their camp, looking distressed. Their bioluminescent patterns flickered chaotically, mirroring the electromagnetic disturbances in the atmosphere. "Please," one of them called out in their musical language, which Russell was surprised to find he understood perfectly. "We seek shelter from the storm." Without hesitation, Russell and Astra welcomed the Zenari into their camp. As they worked together to reinforce their shelters, a cultural exchange began to unfold. The Zenari shared stories of their people's history on this planet, providing valuable insights into the ancient civilization they had been studying. As the solar storm began to subside, a new challenge emerged. The powerful electromagnetic pulses had activated dormant systems within the ruins they had been exploring. The ground shook once more, and the entrance to the underground chamber widened, revealing a vast complex filled with advanced technology. Dr. Martinez, her eyes gleaming with excitement despite her exhaustion, rushed to examine the newly revealed artifacts. "This is incredible," she exclaimed, her fingers dancing over the alien interfaces. "The level of technological advancement here is beyond anything we've seen." As the team cautiously explored the underground complex, they stumbled upon a room filled with data crystals. Astra's markings pulsed rapidly as she interfaced with one of the devices. "These contain vast amounts of scientific knowledge," she breathed, her voice filled with awe. "Physics, genetic engineering, interstellar travel. The potential here is staggering." Russell watched as his teammates debated the implications of their discovery. The possibility of staying on the planet to continue their research seemed more appealing than ever, but the thought of their waiting responsibilities back home deeply affected on their minds. Their discussion was interrupted by a sudden, high-pitched whine emanating from deep within the complex. Lights began to flicker on, illuminating previously dark corridors. What's happening? Russell asked, his enhanced senses on high alert. Astra's markings flashed in alarm. We've triggered some kind of automated system. It's a planetary defense network. A holographic display sprang to life, showing their damaged Vorkarian transport ship still in orbit. The defense system had identified it as a potential threat and was preparing to neutralize it. We need to shut this down now, Russell said, his voice tight with urgency. Otherwise, we'll lose our only way home. As they raced deeper into the complex, searching for a way to deactivate the defense system, Russell found himself instinctively understanding the alien technology around him. His enhanced physiology seemed to bridge the gap between human intuition and Vorkarian biological interfacing. Here, he called out, approaching a central console. I think this is the main control hub. Astra joined him, her markings pulsing in sync with the system's energy fluctuations. You're right, but deactivating it will require a delicate balance of human creativity and Vorkarian biological input. Together, they began the complex process of shutting down the defense network. Russell's hands moved across the alien interface with surprising dexterity, while Astra guided him through the intricacies of the system's biological components. As they worked, the rest of the team and the Zenari watched in amazement. The seamless collaboration between human and Vorkarian was a powerful demonstration of what their two species could achieve together. With seconds to spare, Russell and Astra managed to deactivate the defense system. The holographic display flickered and died, and the ominous whine of charging weapons faded away. Exhausted but elated, the team gathered to assess their situation. The immediate danger had passed, but they now faced a crucial decision. Should they stay and continue their research, or prepare to return home? As they debated, a faint signal caught their attention. It was a transmission from Earth, weak but unmistakable. They had finally been located. Russell and Astra exchanged a look, knowing that their time on this mysterious planet might be coming to an end. But as they turned to face their teammates and the curious Zenari, they realized that their journey of discovery was far from finished. The knowledge they had uncovered and the bonds they had formed would shape the future of human-Vorkarian relations for generations to come. With the rescue mission approaching, they knew they had to act quickly to document their findings and secure samples of the ancient technology. As they set to work, Russell and Astra found a moment alone amidst the flurry of activity. Whatever happens next, Russell said softly, taking Astra's hand in his, we face it together. Astra's markings pulsed in agreement, their glow reflecting the hope and uncertainty that lay ahead. Ahead of them, as the anticipation of the approaching rescue mission filled the air, Russell and Astra exchanged a determined glance. They knew their time on this enigmatic planet was limited, and they had to make every second count. We need to secure as much data and as many artifacts as possible, Russell said, his voice urgent. Let's organize a team and head back into the complex. Astra nodded, her markings pulsing with agreement. I'll coordinate with Dr. Martinez to ensure we're prioritizing the most critical items. Within minutes, they had assembled a small group of human and Vorkarian researchers. Armed with portable scanning devices and containment units, they descended into the underground chambers, their path illuminated by the soft glow of bioluminescent plants that had taken root in the ancient corridors. As they moved deeper into the complex, Russell found himself instinctively understanding the layout, his partially activated Vorkarian genes allowing him to navigate the alien architecture with surprising ease. He led the team to a chamber they hadn't fully explored before, filled with rows of sophisticated-looking devices. Look at this, he called out, approaching a sleek, cylindrical machine. It seems to be some kind of genetic sequencer. Astra joined him, her markings flashing as she interfaced with the device's control panel. You're right. The technology is far more advanced than anything we have. We should document it thoroughly before Dash. Her words were cut short as Russell accidentally brushed against the sensor pad. The machine hummed to life, a beam of blue light, scanning both of them from head to toe. "Russell!" Astra exclaimed, her markings pulsing rapidly with alarm. Before either of them could react, the device initiated an automated sequence. Russell felt a tingling sensation spread throughout his body, intensifying until it became almost unbearable. He gritted his teeth, his muscles tensing as wave after wave of energy coursed through him. "What's happening to him?" Dr. Martinez asked, rushing to Russell's side. Astra's eyes widened as she interpreted the data streaming across the device's display. "It's enhancing his Vorkarian traits. The machine recognized his partially activated genes and is completing the process." Russell's body trembled, his skin taking on a subtle iridescent sheen similar to Astra's. His senses sharpened dramatically, the world around him coming into hyperfocus. He could hear the rapid heartbeats of his teammates, smell the faintest traces of minerals in the air, and see minute details in the surrounding architecture that had been invisible to him before. As the process concluded, Russell stumbled forward, caught by Astra's steady arms. "How do you feel?" she asked, her voice a mixture of concern and fascination. Russell took a deep breath, marveling at the changes in his body. "I feel incredible. Everything is so clear, so vivid." Intrigued by Russell's transformation, Astra made a bold decision. "I want to try it," she said, stepping towards the device. "Are you sure?" Russell asked, his newly enhanced senses picking up on the subtle changes in her pheromones that indicated both excitement and apprehension. Astra nodded, positioning herself in front of the scanner. The blue light washed over her, and the machine hummed as it analyzed her unique physiology. To everyone's surprise, instead of enhancing her Vorkarian traits, the device's display showed a different set of results. "This is remarkable," Dr. Martinez said, examining the readout. "It seems your time on Earth has made you more compatible with human biology than typical Vorkarians." As they processed this new information, a loud alarm blared through the complex. Astra's markings flashed as she accessed the communication network. "The rescue fleet has entered orbit," she reported, her voice tense. "But the planetary defense system is reactivating." Russell's enhanced mind quickly grasped the gravity of the situation. "We need to shut it down completely this time. Astra, you're with me. The rest of you, start packing up the most critical artifacts and data. We can't risk losing anything if we need to evacuate quickly." With newfound speed and agility, Russell and Astra raced through the underground chambers, their bodies in perfect sync as they navigated the complex layout. They reached the central control hub, finding it pulsing with renewed energy. "The system must have had a failsafe," Astra said, her fingers dancing over the alien interface. "It's going to target the rescue ships." Russell placed his hands on the console, surprised to find he could now interface directly with the technology. His mind merged with the ancient system, streams of data flowing through his consciousness. "I think I can bypass the security protocols," he said, his voice strained with concentration. "But it's fighting back." As Russell grappled with the alien software, Astra monitored his vital signs, providing support and guidance. "Your neural patterns are stabilizing," she observed. "You're adapting to the system faster than I ever could." With a final push of mental effort, Russell managed to break through the last firewall. The defense system powered down, its displays fading to darkness. He slumped forward, exhausted but triumphant. "You did it," Astra said, helping him to his feet. "The rescue ships are beginning their descent." As they made their way back to the surface, they could hear the roar of engines as the first ship touched down. Emerging from the underground complex, they saw a sleek vessel bearing both Earth and Vorkarian insignias. The ship's ramp lowered, revealing a joint command team led by Admiral Turner and Vorkarian Commander Zal. Their arrival marked a new chapter in human-Vorkarian relations, one that Russell and Astra had played a crucial role in shaping. As the evacuation began, Russell and Astra found themselves at the center of a flurry of activity. Crates of artifacts were carefully loaded onto the ships, while teams of scientists hurriedly compiled data from their discoveries. "We need to prioritize the genetic sequencer and the cryogenic pods we found," Russell insisted, his enhanced senses allowing him to oversee multiple operations simultaneously. Commander Zal approached them, his markings pulsing with curiosity as he observed Russell's transformation. "Your reports have caused quite a stir back home," he said. "This mission has opened up possibilities we never imagined." As the last of the critical artifacts were secured, Russell and Astra stood together, watching the organized chaos of the evacuation. Their unique physiological changes had positioned them at the forefront of a new era of interspecies cooperation. "What happens now?" Astra asked, her hand finding Russell's. Before he could respond, they were approached by a group of Zenari, their bioluminescent patterns flickering with a mixture of emotions. "We wish to propose something," the lead Zenari said, its melodic voice carrying across the landing zone. "A permanent research outpost, here on our world, staffed by all three of our species." Russell and Astra exchanged a look, recognizing the weight of this moment. As Admiral Turner and Commander Zal joined the conversation, it became clear that the adventure they had begun on this planet was a long way to go. The future of galactic relations was unfolding before them, and they were at its very heart. Heart of galactic relations was unfolding before them, and they were at its very center. As Russell and Astra watched the bustling activity around them, a sudden tremor shook the ground beneath their feet. "What was that?" Russell asked, his enhanced senses immediately on alert. Astra's markings pulsed rapidly as she accessed the planet's monitoring systems. "It's coming from the underground complex. The energy readings are off the charts." Before they could investigate further, an urgent message came through from the rescue ships. "We're experiencing some kind of interference," Admiral Turner's voice crackled over the comm. "The propulsion systems are unresponsive. We can't take off." Russell and Astra exchanged a worried glance. "It has to be connected to the tremors," Russell said. "We need to get back to the genetic sequencer." They raced back into the underground complex, their enhanced physiology allowing them to navigate the winding corridors with ease. As they approached the chamber housing the device, they could see it pulsating with an otherworldly energy. "It's emitting some kind of energy signature," Astra observed, her markings flickering as she attempted to interface with the machine. "I can't make sense of it." Russell stepped forward, placing his hands on the console. His newly enhanced abilities allowed him to merge his consciousness with the ancient technology. As streams of data flowed through his mind, his eyes widened in shock. "It's initiated a planet-wide terraforming sequence," he gasped. "Our genetic profiles must have triggered it somehow." Astra's face paled. "The Zenari. This could destroy their entire ecosystem." Urgent messages flooded their communicators as Admiral Turner and Commander Zal called for an emergency meeting. Russell and Astra rushed to the surface, where they found a tense gathering of human, Vorkarian, and Zenari leaders. "We need to halt this terraforming process immediately," Commander Zal insisted, his markings pulsing with concern. The lead Zenari, its bioluminescent patterns flickering anxiously, added, "Our world is changing rapidly. We cannot survive if this continues." Admiral Turner turned to Russell and Astra. "You two have the most experience with this technology. Can you stop it?" Russell nodded grimly. "We'll need to access the central control system. It's deeper in the complex than we've ever gone before." As they prepared to return underground, Dr. Elena Martinez approached them. "I'll work with the Zenari scientists to monitor the atmospheric changes," she said. "We'll keep you updated on the situation up here." Russell and Astra led a team back into the complex, but as they descended deeper, they encountered a series of biological security measures. The ancient defenses recognized their hybrid physiologies, but blocked the other team members. "We have no choice," Astra said, her markings pulsing with drive. "We have to go on alone." As they ventured further into the heart of the facility, the walls seemed to come alive around them. Bioluminescent patterns danced across the surfaces, responding to their presence. They navigated through a maze of corridors that seemed to shift and change, guided only by Russell's enhanced intuition and Astra's ability to interface with the living architecture. Finally, they reached the central control chamber. A holographic interface sprang to life, its shifting colors reflecting off the metallic surfaces of the room. An AI construct materialized before them, its form a swirling mass of light and data. "Greetings, hybrid ones," the AI spoke, its voice a harmonious blend of tones. "You have activated the Genesis Protocol." "Genesis Protocol?" Russell asked, stepping forward. The AI's form shimmered as it explained. "A program designed to create the ideal habitat for a hybrid species combining traits from various galactic races. Your unique genetic signatures have initiated the process." Astra's markings flashed with realization. That's why it recognized us. "But we can't let this continue. It will destroy the existing ecosystem and endanger the Zenari." Russell interfaced with the AI, his mind racing through countless simulations and potential outcomes. "We need to shut it down," he said firmly. "Can you terminate the sequence?" The AI paused, its form flickering. "This goes against my primary directive. Are you certain?" Russell and Astra exchanged a long look, the weight of their decision hanging heavy in the air. Finally, Astra nodded. "We are. The needs of the many outweigh the potential benefits for the few." "Very well," the AI responded, initiating termination sequence. "But be warned, the abrupt halt may have unforeseen consequences." Russell's hands flew over the holographic interface, his enhanced abilities allowing him to navigate the complex alien software with incredible speed. Astra provided crucial insights, her knowledge of Workarian biological systems helping to untangle the intricacies of the terraforming process. As they worked, the chamber around them began to shake. Alarms blared, and the AI's form became erratic. "Warning. System instability detected. Facility integrity compromised." Just as they input the final command to halt the terraforming, a violent tremor rocked the complex. The holographic interface flickered and died, plunging the chamber into darkness. "We need to get out of here," Astra shouted over the sound of crumbling stone and twisting metal. They raced through the collapsing corridors, their enhanced physiology allowing them to dodge falling debris and leap over widening chasms. As they neared the exit, a massive cave-in blocked their path, cutting them off from the rest of their team. "This way," Russell called out, pulling Astra down a side passage. His heightened senses had detected a faint air current, leading them to a previously undiscovered chamber. As they entered the hidden room, their eyes widened in amazement. Before them stood a small, sleek spacecraft of obvious alien design. Its surface gleamed with an otherworldly metal, untouched by the passage of time. "It's our only chance," Astra said, her markings pulsing rapidly as she approached the vessel. Russell placed his hand on the ship's hull, his mind interfacing with its ancient systems. To his surprise, the craft responded, its engines humming to life with a soft, melodic tone. As the complex continued to crumble around them, Russell and Astra climbed into the cockpit. The controls were unlike anything they had ever seen, a blend of biological and technological interfaces. Yet, with their unique abilities, they found themselves instinctively understanding how to operate the vessel. "Hold on," Russell said, his hands dancing over the control panel. The ship rose smoothly, maneuvering through a narrow escape tunnel that opened before them. They burst from the collapsing underground structure just as it imploded, emerging into the open sky in a blaze of otherworldly energy. As they soared over the gathered rescue teams, Russell and Astra could see the astonished faces of their colleagues below. Admiral Turner and Commander Zhao stared up at the alien craft in disbelief, their expressions a mixture of relief and awe and confusion. The sleek alien craft hovered above the rescue teams, its otherworldly design a stark contrast to the human and Vorkarian vessels nearby. Russell's voice crackled over the comm system. Admiral Turner, Commander Zhao, we're all right. This ship was our only way out of the collapsing complex. Understood, Admiral Turner replied, his voice tinged with relief and curiosity. Can you bring it down safely? Affirmative, Astra responded, her markings pulsing as she interfaced with the ship systems. We're initiating landing procedures now. As the alien craft descended gracefully to the ground, Russell and Astra could see the rescue fleet preparing for departure. The last of the artifacts and personnel were being loaded onto the ships, the evacuation nearly complete. Once landed, Russell and Astra emerged from the cockpit to find themselves surrounded by a mix of amazed and apprehensive faces. Dr. Elena Martinez rushed forward, her eyes wide with excitement. "This is incredible," she breathed, running her hand along the ship's smooth exterior. "The technological implications alone are staggering." Admiral Turner approached, his expression a mixture of concern and admiration. "I'm glad you two are safe, but this complicates our departure plans. We can't leave this ship behind, and we certainly can't risk it falling into the wrong hands." Commander Zhao nodded in agreement, his markings pulsing thoughtfully. "We'll need to take it with us for further study. Russell, Astra, do you think you can pilot it alongside our fleet?" Russell and Astra exchanged a glance, their newfound connection allowing for silent communication. "We believe so," Russell answered. The ship's controls seemed to respond intuitively to our hybrid physiology. As the final preparations for departure were made, Russell and Astra returned to the alien craft. They settled into the cockpit, their hands moving confidently over the biotechnological interface. The rescue fleet lifted off, with the alien ship seamlessly integrating into the formation. As they ascended through the planet's atmosphere, Russell noticed a series of lights blinking on the control panel. "Astra, are you seeing this?" he asked, gesturing to the flashing display. Her markings pulsed rapidly as she focused on the interface. "Yes, it seems the ship is reacting to the change in altitude. Wait, something's happening." Suddenly, a hidden compartment in the ship's interior slid open, revealing a cluster of shimmering data crystals. The crystals pulsed with an inner light, each one seemingly alive with information. "Admiral Turner," Russell called over the comm, "we've discovered something." The ship revealed a cache of data crystals during our ascent. "Acknowledged," Turner replied. "Hold on to them for now. We're en route to the Joint Human-Vorkarian Space Station in this sector. We'll conduct a full debriefing and analysis there." As the fleet approached the space station, Russell and Astra marveled at its size and complexity. The station was a testament to human-Vorkarian cooperation, its design blending the best aspects of both species' architecture and technology. Upon docking, the station burst into a flurry of activity. Scientists, engineers, and diplomats from both species swarmed around the newly arrived ships, eager to begin examining the artifacts and data recovered from the planet. Dr. Martinez quickly assembled a team to study the data crystals, setting up a secure lab within the station. Russell and Astra handed over the crystals, watching as the scientists carefully placed them into specialized readers. "This is extraordinary," Dr. Martinez muttered, her eyes fixed on the streams of data flowing across her screens. "These crystals contain vast amounts of information about the ancient civilization's technology and genetic engineering techniques. It's going to take months, maybe years, to fully analyze all of this." Meanwhile, Russell and Astra found themselves ushered into the station's medical bay. A team of human and Vorkarian doctors began a series of comprehensive examinations, documenting every aspect of their unique physiologies. Dr. Lena Chun, the lead human physician, looked up from her scanner with a mixture of amazement and concern. "Your cellular structures have undergone significant changes," she explained. "It's as if your bodies are continuing to adapt and evolve even now." Her Vorkarian counterpart, Dr. Zax, nodded in agreement. "The level of integration between human and Vorkarian biology is unprecedented. Your genetic codes have become intertwined in ways we never thought possible." As the medical team continued their examinations, Admiral Turner and Commander Zal organized a series of high-level meetings to discuss the implications of the recent discoveries. Representatives from Earth and Vorkarian High Councils arrived at the station, turning it into a hub of intense diplomatic activity. Russell and Astra found themselves at the center of attention, their unique status as human Vorkarian hybrids, making them the subject of both scientific curiosity and political debate. They were called upon to share their experiences and insights with key decision-makers from both species. During one such meeting, Russell stood before a gathered assembly of human and Vorkarian officials. "Our transformation has opened up new possibilities for cooperation between our species," he explained, gesturing to Astra. "We've gained abilities that neither humans nor Vorkarians possessed individually. Imagine what we could achieve if we combined our strengths on a larger scale." Astra stepped forward, her markings pulsing with conviction. "The ancient civilization that created this technology saw the potential in combining different species traits. We have a chance to build upon their work, to push the boundaries of what's possible." As the implications of their discoveries began to sink in, the station became a hotbed of research and development. The engineering bay was converted into a massive laboratory, with teams working around the clock to analyze the alien spacecraft and its revolutionary propulsion system. Dr. Martinez's team made significant progress in decoding the data crystals, uncovering information that could potentially reshape the future of both human and Vorkarian societies. Their findings on interspecies genetic compatibility sparked intense debates among the scientific community. As the days turned into weeks, Russell and Astra found themselves navigating not just the complex political landscape, but also the evolving nature of their own relationship. Their unique bond, strengthened by their shared experiences and physiological changes, became a subject of both admiration and scrutiny. One evening, as they stood in the station's observation deck, looking out at the star-filled expanse of space, Astra turned to Russell. "We've come so far," she said, her markings pulsing softly. "But I can't help feeling that this is just the beginning." Russell nodded, taking her hand in his. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Not just us, but humans and Vorkarians working as one." As they stood there, contemplating the future, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Security teams rushed past the observation deck, led by Sergeant Sarah Cooper. "We've got intruders," Cooper shouted as she ran by. "Earth First Coalition remnants. They're trying to sabotage the research labs." Russell and Astra exchanged a determined look. Without hesitation, they sprinted after the security team, ready to defend the progress they had fought so hard to achieve. The next chapter of their adventure was about to unfold, with the fate of human-Vorkarian relations hanging in the balance. Russell and Astra sprinted through the station's corridors, their enhanced physiology allowing them to quickly catch up with Sergeant Cooper's security team. As they approached the research labs, the sound of alarms mixed with the distinct hiss of laser fire. "Cooper, what's the situation?" Russell called out as they reached the security perimeter. "Earth First Coalition operatives have breached the main lab," Cooper replied, her voice tense. "They're after the data crystals and any information on the alien technology." Astra's markings pulsed rapidly as she assessed the situation. "We need to flank them. Russell, take the left corridor. I'll go right." Without hesitation, they split up, using their newly developed abilities to navigate the chaotic scene. Russell's heightened senses allowed him to detect the subtle movements of the intruders, while Astra's enhanced strength let her easily move debris blocking their path. As they converged on the main lab, they found Dr. Martinez and her team huddled behind overturned tables, exchanging fire with the Earth First operatives. "Dr. Martinez, are you all right?" Astra called out, ducking behind a console. "We're holding, but they're after the crystals." Martinez shouted back, gesturing to a sealed container on the far side of the room. Russell locked eyes with Astra, a silent plan forming between them. In perfect synchronization, they moved. Russell provided cover fire, his accuracy enhanced by his hybrid physiology, while Astra darted across the room, her movements a blur. The Earth First operatives, caught off guard by the duo's enhanced abilities, faltered in their attack. Astra reached the container, securing it just as Sergeant Cooper's team breached the lab's main entrance. "Drop your weapons," Cooper commanded, her team fanning out to surround the intruders. Outgunned and outmaneuvered, the Earth First operatives surrendered. As the security team led them away, Admiral Turner and Commander Zell entered the lab, their expressions a mixture of relief and concern. "Excellent work, all of you," Admiral Turner said, surveying the scene. "But this breach is concerning. We need to accelerate our plans." Commander Zell nodded in agreement, his markings pulsing steadily. "The Coalition's actions prove that our current location is no longer secure. We must move forward with the next phase of our operation." Russell and Astra exchanged glances, sensing the weight of the moment. "What do you have in mind, sir?" Russell asked. Admiral Turner's gaze fell on the alien spacecraft docked nearby. "It's time to put that ship of yours to the test. We're assigning you to lead a pioneering mission." Dr. Martinez stepped forward, her eyes wide with excitement. The ship's propulsion system could revolutionize our exploration capabilities. We need to see what it can do. "Exactly," Commander Zhao continued. "We've assembled a team of our best scientists, both human and Vorkarian. Your mission will be to test the ship's capabilities and scout for potential habitable planets." Astra's markings pulsed with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "When do we leave?" "Immediately," Admiral Turner replied. "We can't risk another security breach. Dr. Martinez and her team will accompany you. We'll transmit further details once you're underway." As the group dispersed to prepare for the mission, Russell pulled Astra aside. "This is it," he said softly. "Everything we've been through, everything we've become. It's all led to this moment." Astra nodded, her markings glowing softly. "Whatever we find out there, we'll face it together." Within hours, the alien spacecraft was prepped for departure. Russell and Astra took their positions in the cockpit, their hybrid physiology seamlessly interfacing with the ship's biotechnological controls. Dr. Martinez and her team secured themselves in the newly installed crew quarters, their equipment carefully stowed for the journey. As the docking clamps released, Russell felt a surge of energy course through the ship. The vessel's systems, dormant for millennia, fully activated in response to their presence. A holographic display materialized before them, revealing a star map with pre-programmed coordinates. "Are you seeing this?" Astra asked, her markings pulsing rapidly as she interfaced with the ship's AI. "It's a map," Russell confirmed, his mind processing the vast amounts of data flooding through the neural interface. "And those coordinates, they're like waypoints left by the ancient civilization." Dr. Martinez's voice came through the ship's internal comm system. "The ship's computer is revealing new information about the ancient civilization's exploration history. It's incredible." As they cleared the space station's perimeter, Russell engaged the ship's revolutionary propulsion system. The stars around them blurred, and the vessel surged forward with breathtaking speed. "My God!" Russell breathed, watching the navigation display. "We're covering light years in minutes." Astra's hands danced over the controls, her markings pulsing in sync with the ship's energy fluctuations. "The ship is responding to our hybrid physiology, unlocking features we didn't even know existed." Hours passed like minutes as they traversed vast distances of space. Finally, they approached the first set of coordinates on the ancient star map. Before them loomed a planet, its surface a mosaic of blues, greens, and swirling cloud patterns. Initial scans show environmental conditions similar to both Earth and the Vorkarian homeworld, Dr. Martinez reported, her voice filled with awe. It's perfect. As they entered the planet's orbit, Russell and Astra felt a strange resonance, as if the world below was calling to them. They exchanged a look of understanding. Their journey was just getting started. In fact, it was just beginning of their journey. The alien ship's systems hummed with energy as they prepared to make their descent to the planet's surface. As they entered the atmosphere, Russell and Astra's attention was suddenly drawn to an urgent transmission from the space station. Sergeant Sarah Cooper's face appeared on the holographic display, her expression grave. Russell, Astra, we've intercepted communications indicating an Earth First Coalition plan to sabotage the colony, Cooper warned. They're moving faster than we anticipated. You need to implement emergency protocols immediately. Russell's eyebrows furrowed as he exchanged a look with Astra. Understood, Sergeant. We'll take immediate action. As the ship touched down on the planet's surface, Russell and Astra sprang into action. They quickly assembled the first wave of colonists, briefing them on the situation and initiating emergency security measures. Establish checkpoints at all major access points, Russell ordered, his enhanced senses on high alert. Increase patrols and report any suspicious activity immediately. Astra, her markings pulsing with intensity, reached out to their Nalari allies. We need to set up an early warning system. Your sensor technology could give us a critical advantage. As the colonists scrambled to fortify their position, Russell interfaced with the ancient spacecraft systems. His hybrid physiology allowed him to access previously dormant features, and he worked to create a protective shield around the main settlement area. The air crackled with energy as the shield materialized, a shimmering dome enveloping the fledgling colony. Colonists watched in awe as the barrier took shape, a tangible symbol of their newfound security. Dr. Elena Martinez and her team focused on reinforcing the colony's vital infrastructure. We need to protect the terraforming control centers and communication arrays, she called out, her fingers flying over holographic displays. Let's integrate Vorkarian shielding technology with our encryption methods. As the colony's defenses took shape, tension hung thick in the air. Russell's enhanced hearing picked up whispers of concern among the colonists, their fears of sabotage and attacks spreading like wildfire. Suddenly, alarms blared across the settlement. The Nalari sensors had detected movement at the outskirts of the colony. Russell's muscles tensed as he processed the information flooding through his neural interface. Astra, we've got intruders, he said, his voice low and urgent. They're heading for the power grid. Without hesitation, Russell assembled a rapid response team. They moved swiftly through the colony, their footsteps echoing in the tense silence. As they approached the power grid, Russell detected the subtle sounds of sabotage in progress. On my mark, he whispered to his team, his enhanced vision piercing the darkness. 3, 2, 1. They burst into action, catching the Earth First Coalition infiltrators off guard. Laser fire erupted, illuminating the night in brief, violent flashes. Russell's augmented reflexes allowed him to dodge incoming fire with uncanny precision. In the midst of the chaos, Russell spotted a saboteur attempting to plant an explosive device on the main power conduit. He launched himself forward, covering the distance in a blur of motion. The saboteur's eyes widened in shock as Russell appeared before him, disarming him with a swift, precisely calculated move. As the skirmish died down, Russell's team secured the captured infiltrators. The power grid was safe, but Russell knew this was only the beginning. Meanwhile, Astra had made a startling discovery. While coordinating the colony's defenses, she had stumbled upon a hidden data cache in the nearby ancient ruins. Her markings pulsed rapidly as she processed the information. "Russell," she called over their secure channel, "I've found something. The original civilization. They left behind a network of defensive outposts. If we can reactivate them, it could significantly boost our defenses." Russell nodded, his mind already racing with the possibilities. "Assemble a team. We need to get those outposts online before the next wave hits." As Astra prepared for her expedition, Dr. Martinez approached Russell, her face etched with concern and excitement. "Russell, I've been analyzing the data from your latest physical readings. The stress of the situation, combined with our continued exposure to this environment, it's accelerating the changes in your physiology." Russell flexed his hand, feeling the subtle but undeniable differences in his body. "What does that mean for us, Doctor?" "It means you and Astra are adapting faster than we ever imagined," Martinez replied. "Your abilities are growing. We need to monitor this closely, but it could give us an edge in the coming conflict." As if on cue, a transmission came through from Admiral Turner. Russell's heart raced as he absorbed the Admiral's words. The Earth First Coalition had hijacked a Vorkarian warship and was en route to the planet with a full invasion fleet. Russell's mind whirled with plans and strategies. He knew that the true test of their fledgling colony was yet to come. As he watched Astra's team depart for the ancient outposts and felt the hum of the colony's defenses around him, Russell steeled himself for the battle ahead. The Earth First Coalition was coming, but they would find this new world and its defenders ready and waiting. Waiting. The tension in the air was palpable as Russell surveyed the colony's defenses, his enhanced senses picking up every minute detail of their preparations. Suddenly, Astra's voice crackled through his neural interface. "Russell, you need to see this. I've found something in the ruins." Without hesitation, Russell made his way to Astra's location. The ancient structures loomed before him, their weathered surfaces hiding secrets that were only now beginning to reveal themselves. As he approached, Astra's markings pulsed with excitement. "Look," she said, gesturing to a previously hidden entrance. "The energy signatures we detected earlier led me here." Together, they entered the hidden chamber, their hybrid physiology allowing them to interface with the alien technology seamlessly. The room hummed with latent energy, and at its center stood a device unlike anything they had ever seen. "What is it?" Russell asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Astra's markings flickered as she processed the information flooding through her neural interface. It's some kind of amplifier. It's designed to work with our hybrid physiology." Before they could discuss further, alarms blared throughout the colony. The Earth First Coalition fleet had arrived. Russell's expression hardened. "We need to move. Fast." As they rushed back to the colony's command center, chaos erupted around them. The sky lit up with weapons fire as the Coalition ships engaged their defenses. "Russell, take the ancient ship," Dr. Martinez called out as they entered. "We need every advantage we can get." Nodding, Russell sprinted towards the docking bay. The alien craft responded to his presence, systems coming online as he settled into the pilot's seat. "Astra, coordinate the ground defenses," he ordered through their secure channel. "Use those outposts we reactivated. I'll handle the space battle." As Russell engaged the ship's propulsion system, he felt a surge of energy course through him. The vessel moved with unparalleled agility, dancing between enemy ships with ease. On the ground, Astra's fingers flew over holographic displays, directing their forces with precision. The reactivated outposts fired in perfect synchronization, their ancient weaponry proving more than a match for the Coalition's technology. But despite their efforts, the enemy's numbers were overwhelming. Coalition dropships began to breach their defenses, landing troops on the outskirts of the colony. "Russell," Astra's voice came through, strained but determined. "We can't hold them off forever. We need to use that device." Russell weaved through another barrage of enemy fire, his mind racing. It's risky, Astra. We don't know what it'll do to us. We don't have a choice, she replied. I'm heading there now. Reluctantly, Russell disengaged from the space battle, piloting the ancient ship back towards the ruins. As he landed, he saw Astra already at the entrance, her markings pulsing rapidly. They rushed into the hidden chamber, the sounds of battle echoing behind them. The device hummed with energy, responding to their presence. How do we activate it? Russell asked, scanning the alien controls. Astra's markings flared. We need to connect to it directly. Our bodies will act as conduits. They positioned themselves on either side of the device, placing their hands on its smooth surface. Instantly, energy surged through them, and pain unlike anything they had ever experienced racked their bodies. Russell gritted his teeth, fighting to maintain consciousness. He could feel the device drawing on their hybrid physiology, amplifying and projecting it outward. Suddenly, a massive pulse of energy erupted from the device, sweeping across the planet and into space. The pain intensified, and Russell felt as if every cell in his body was being torn apart and reassembled. Outside, the effects were immediate and dramatic. Coalition ships faltered, their systems failing as the energy pulse washed over them. On the ground, the hybrid colonists found their abilities suddenly enhanced, turning the tide of the battle in an instant. As the pulse subsided, Russell and Astra collapsed, their bodies forever changed by the experience. They stumbled out of the chamber, supporting each other, to find a world transformed. The landscape around them was shifting, new plant life sprouting before their eyes. In the sky, coalition ships hung motionless, their weapons silenced. We did it, Astra breathed, her markings pulsing weakly. Russell nodded, feeling a new connection to the planet beneath his feet. But this is just the beginning. As they made their way back to the colony, they knew that the challenges ahead would be unlike anything they had faced before. The conflict might be over, but the task of building a new world was just beginning.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.